Are you searching for a deeper understanding of your faith?
Inspiring Philosophy is your go-to resource for exploring the rich tapestry of Christian thought.
From biblical archaeology to philosophy of mind, we dive into the topics that matter.
Our content bridges faith and understanding, offering insights into God's existence and the reliability of the New Testament.
Join a community where faith meets reason and discover the answers you've been seeking.
Inspiring Philosophy, where faith meets understanding. All right, we're live. Welcome back, everyone. And we have brought a young, spiffy young sport here who understands all the young people Gen Z language.
Riz Sigma Ohio Low Taper Fade.
There we go. Awesome. Awesome.
Is that,
Fan,
is that a different language?
I don't know. Fan, are you a millennial or not? I don't know. Are you?
I'm a millennial, yeah.
Are barely? Because you're younger than me. You
I'm like, what's the cutoff point for like millennial to Gen Z?
Well, the thing is,
like anyone over 28 is.
I'm 30.
Okay, so you are on this council, but we do not grant you the rank of master millennial.
Okay. The generations skip in terms of basedness. So Gen Z and Gen X and the silent generation are based. Boomers and millennials and Gen Alpha are cringe.
You know what? I can kick you out,
Millennials
but
are
I'm not
pretty
gonna.
cringe.
But you have a warning, sir. You were
Okay.
on watch, but I'll let that one slide. But because some of the millennials definitely are cringe for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why we brought you back, because we're going to be responding to a video put out by Genetically Modified Skeptic titled "The Sinister Way the Far Right is Keeping Gen Z Men Christian." Now, if I have not seen a clickbait title in my life, this is a clickbait title, because you click on it and not a lot of talking about how Gen Z men are being kept Christian by the sinister far right. It's just more like why he doesn't like Charlie Kirk. That's most of the video.
Yeah.
Which, to be fair, Drew brings up some good points. This is not, and I hope Drew watches this. This isn't going to be a apologetic for Charlie Kirk. This is not going to be a bashing of Genetically Modified Skeptic and the left. It's going to be, the main point I'm going to try to make is that, Drew, GMS, you should be thankful that if there's a sinister plot going on that to keep Gen Z men Christian, you should be thanking the far right. I don't think that's what's going on, but if that is what's going on, you should be happy. And we'll get into some data as to why later on. But yeah, I know Than watched it. Did you watch it, Richard, or not?
I've not seen it yet, but it's probably not too enlightening.
Well, it's a good thing you're here, because
It really woke me up. I'm doubting my Christianity now because I'm wondering how much Charlie Kirk has brainwashed me. Even though I've never watched much Charlie Kirk stuff.
He didn't brainwash you, Than. You are a junior millennial, okay? He brainwashed poor Richard.
Yeah. I'm safe. I'm safe.
Now, I'm the one who's brainwashed. I thought, this whole Christianity stuff was real. I thought I had like real spiritual relationship, but turns out I'm just being an edgy teenager who's reacting to far right memes that the algorithm provides.
Powerful. And that's why you're here. Don't worry. Genetically Modified Skeptic is going to help you today. He's going to break the spell of Charlie Kirk that he has on you, hence the thumbnail for the stream.
I've literally never watched Charlie Kirk. I think he overestimates how many young men watch Charlie Kirk.
Yeah, and this is kind of another one of the main points I want to make is like it seems that there's a lot of like talk or gossip of people on the left that those poor Christian men or Christians in general, they're being brainwashed by the far right, and we're over here like regular church attending Christians going like, what are you talking about? Like that's not what's going on.
Another thing I want to let all the older people know about Gen Z is now this might not be the best thing that we do. It is something we do. A lot of Gen Z people will act more racist online than they are. They will say very, very racist and anti-Semitic things as part of a meme joke culture that they would not say in real life, that they would not mean in real life. Like they'll post some horribly racist meme and they'll go hang out with their black friends like nothing happened. Maybe show the meme to their black friends and they'll all laugh about it. So the way I see it, I'm not saying it's the best thing, but the way I see it, it's just Gen Z's like way of rebelling against the status quo about what you're allowed to say and what you're not allowed to say. Because they're just reacting against the really strong cancel culture that regulates any kind of joke you're allowed to make. So they just try and push the boundaries as much as possible. So when people like Genetically Modified Skeptic see some of the rhetoric, they're like, oh, Gen Z is all racist now. That being said, there is a problem of some actual, racism and anti-Semitism among Gen Z, mostly in corners of the internet. I've almost never encountered it in real life, but it's not entirely wrong, but I think he doesn't understand what's going on.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I'm glad you brought that up for sure. Yeah, I think a lot of this is just fear mongering. I think people just get in their left or the right bubble and they go, oh, those people on the other side, they're all this, they're all acting this way. And it just isn't the case.
I was going to say, besides the Charlie Kirk stuff, because I don't really know too much about him, this video came off as a very like believing the caricature you've made up of the bad guy so much that you got lost in the sauce of the caricature you made.
Yeah. And I honestly hope Genetically Modified Skeptic watches this stream. I don't know if he will or not, but I hope he does, because again, this isn't going to be a full-blown attack on him either. But I would love to see what he says about some of the research I'm going to present from someone like John Compton. John Compton gave me his slides because we talked through email, and I'm going to present some of the research that he has presented on issues of authoritarianism, church attendance, this kind of stuff. And I'd love for Drew to comment on that stuff and get his thoughts on it, what we're going to present here today. But let's get to some super chats and then we'll get into the video. So Victory in Christ asks, are the Jews still God's chosen people, like he says? Are they when people say that, I always say, what do you mean by chosen? They were chosen to be the nation that God makes a covenant with, to bless all the other nations, to bring the Messiah into the world, to be a light to the nations. And yes, they still are, because Jesus is a Jew and he fulfilled all that. So yes, they're chosen, and they're chosen for that purpose, not because they're special or anything like that. Yeah,
and of course, as a Presbyterian, I disagree, but I'm not the one who owns this channel.
What is your position on that? I'm just curious now.
I mean, I am Jewish, as all the far right people on Twitter regularly point out whenever I say anything they disagree with slightly. But the Presbyterian position is that God's chosen people are strictly the church, not the Jews. It's the church, which is made up of Jews and Gentiles.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. So thank you, Antique Reality. Love your guys' work. Bless all of you. Before you start, I want to hear your thoughts on Charlie Kirk. You guys don't really have many thoughts on him because you don't know much about him.
Yeah, I don't have. I've never like gone out of my way to watch anything about Charlie.
Even
Kirk.
though he has brainwashed you into being Christian.
No, because I'm not Gen Z. Remember?
That's true. Okay.
So I'm not brainwashed.
So my thoughts on him are this: I have watched some of his stuff. I honestly don't watch a lot of it because I try to stay out of politics, and I find a lot of the the Trump idolizing kind of cringe. And he's definitely in that camp. I'm not saying he's wrong about everything, because I'm more conservative than liberal for sure. But the one thing I will say is I think he tries to blend Christianity and politics too much. That it's like a Christian duty to vote Republican or vote conservative. I'm not convinced of that at all. So I think he kind of uses Christianity sometimes to push his political stuff, which I reject and I'm fully against. I think we need to keep those separate. And so I think a lot of, again, regular church attending Christians would agree with that. So those would be my thoughts. Otherwise, I think there's probably him and I agree on a lot when it comes to politics. I mean, he's pro-life. We're pro-life. I mean, he's conservative. We're conservative. I don't agree with everything he says or does, for sure. So, no, he needs to be a master. We can't risk him falling to the dark side and becoming Darth Dawkins' apprentice, Darth Than. Okay.
I am as vehemently pre-sup as it gets.
You're pre-sup?
So that's not going to happen.
You cannot
anti-pre-sup. Sorry.
I'm still not granting.
Good.
I'm still not granting Than the rank of master, though. I don't care.
Dude, but by what standard? By what standard?
Yeah.
By Samuel L. Jackson's mother standard.
Okay, but Mike, how do you ground all universals and particulars?
None of your damn business. Me channeling Jackson there. Anyway, doubts? What doubts, man? I don't know, Ezra. What doubts? Far right? Is anything right of Bernie Sanders? Yeah, I get what you're kind of saying there. Like, there's this opinion among some people on the left that if you're to the right of Bernie Sanders, you are far right, and it's like a generalizing and kind of like, come on, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Kirk said the Civil Rights Act was a mistake. Yeah, I've heard that argument for people on the right in the past. Here's the argument: is that it like businesses should have autonomy to discriminate against their wants, and the argument they'll use is like the gay couple with a wedding with a wedding cake, like forcing a baker to, and so they'll say this kind of same thing, like, like businesses should have a right to discriminate on the grounds that they're not the government and they have a right to discriminate, and therefore the economy, the invisible hand of the market, will push the racists out of the market. This is something that I believe Ben Shapiro has said. My pushback is I don't agree. I think it was necessary for a time, given how racist the past was. You could see it coming into a more enlightened society and economy where it's just obsolete, like it's no longer needed. But but I'm just trying to steelman the actual position. They didn't say it because they were racist. They said it because they thought the government was overstepping its grab on business and regulating too much.
And my opinion on the civil rights movement is I wasn't there. I don't know what I'm talking about, and I'm not going to pretend I do know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, to quote Ken Ham, were you there? Were you there? No, you weren't. I don't know how to deal with that when you've had none to answer. What's the name of that website or that ministry thing? Is it Talk About Doubts?
Yeah.
Yeah. Contact Talk About Doubts and set up a meeting with them. They'll help you with that kind of stuff.
I volunteer with that ministry. If you guys know Eric Manning, he volunteers there too. Lots of really good resources.
I've noticed more anti-Semitism among boomers than among Gen X. Do you mean Gen Z? Huh. I've not. I just see it kind of across the board.
Yeah.
I'd say. Yeah. Dear skeptics, atheists, your beliefs create a world that sucks. Sincerely, a Christian Zoomer. Yeah, and we'll get to that, Norm. Trust me. I've got some slides from John Compton I'll bring up that, they definitely make the world suck. And see my debate with Lawrence Krauss on that, which I'd love to get atheists to comment more on that because I got so much more I want to say on that, but they're avoiding that. As Stan and I saw with Stephen Woodford, who tried to reply to a post of mine, but didn't watch the debate. Cringe.
Gosh.
Any good arguments against nominalism? I think it's basically antithetical to Christianity, but it feels somewhat intuitive to me for some reason. I don't think it is. William Lane Craig's a nominalist.
Yeah. I don't know why you would. Some Thomists, I think it's Thomists, that will say that nominalism is going to be antithetical to Christianity. But this is going to be really depend on your models of God more so than anything else. It's not antithetical to Christianity, though.
There have been some great nominalist, like William of Ockham, the father of nominalism, was a Christian. Now, for many years, we've let Thomists, sort of have a monopoly on the conversation about Christian philosophy. But Thomas Aquinas thought heaven is staring at the divine essence for all eternity and doing nothing. So let's take his opinion on some of these things with a grain of salt.
Yeah. A lot of people will say that like nominalism paved the way for secularism or
Dude,
some
the,
stuff like that.
the Filioque led to Drag Queen Story Hour. Don't you know?
On that note, let's get to the video here. Let's learn about. Go ahead. What were you saying?
I really want to know where that came from, but
listen, if you don't know Thane, you don't know your history well. All right, we're just gonna have to move on. I obviously get it. Richard and I totally get it. You are missing something, obviously. So, I cut out at the beginning because he just gives like a long analogy, and he basically gives a second story that basically is the same point of the first analogy. So I just cut out 2 minutes because save time. But generally, he just had this belief growing up that Satan was inspiring people to write Hollywood movies, and that's also summed up in the second story he gives. So let me know when you guys want to stop.
Fast forward to my early adolescence, when I started hearing a lot of negative talk about someone in politics named Hillary Clinton. I asked my parents who that was and why she was so bad. They basically told me that she was a woman who wanted to make America really bad for Christians like us. When I asked why she would do that, they gave me a familiar answer. The devil has a hold on her heart. So not only was Satan controlling people to make disgusting, sinful movies, he was also controlling some of the most powerful people in our country in an effort to hurt Christians like me. Terrifying stuff. Now, as awful as all of that sounds, the Christian teachings I heard on a daily basis growing up were not usually so scary. We spent a lot of time cultivating love, compassion, gentleness, charity, and selflessness. We gave to the poor, we housed people in our community, we volunteered at homeless shelters, that kind of thing. I did.
So this is one of the reasons I like Drew. He's not like the cringy new atheist. It's like, religion bad, always do evil, me hate you. He will acknowledge, like, yeah, a lot of religious people are not always spreading fear. They're doing a lot of good. Like there's stuff we don't like in the Christian community or from our Christian upbringing, but that's like little parts of like the larger picture. So just want that to be acknowledged there.
Yeah.
Did develop some deeply seated irrational fears as a kid because of the demon stuff, but I also did a lot of moral reflection and developed principles that I still hold on to this day. The Christianity I knew was not just about fearing and fleeing from darkness. It was also about being a light through loving unconditionally. One of the reasons I left the church was actually because they didn't live up to their supposed values. I share this with a lot of ex-Christians. As I've said on this channel before, leaving Christianity was one of the most Christian decisions I have ever made.
All right, this is not really related to the whole video, but this is such a bad point. Christians didn't act Christian.
Yeah.
What? Duh. Like, that's the point of the gospel. Like, Jesus came, I came to the sick because the righteous don't need a doctor, which he said multiple times. And I always find this argument fascinating because I'm like, you're shocked that Christians showed that they're sinners and messed up. What do you think the point of Christianity is? This isn't Islam where we pretend we're better than everyone else. Like the church is supposed to be filled with the worst of the worst because like that's what the gospel says. Like I never understood how this is an argument against Christianity. If anything, it would be consistent with what the Christian message teaches.
Yeah, I've never understood this argument. It might give you some sort of cultural or like societal reason to not want to be part of that group. But I mean, at the end of the day, you're going to face the same issue with any group you're going to be a part of, right? Everybody's going to somehow let you down in some way, shape, or form. So,
And the other point, the most Christian thing I could ever do was leave Christianity. I'm like, that is so
backwards.
No disrespect. I don't think he intended it, but it really comes across as arrogant. I'm so much better than you people. That's why I can't be associated with you anymore. I'm going to go out and join the atheists who are far better and more ethical than you. Like, dude, get a grip. Like, you realize, like, again, I don't think Drew intended it, but that's really how that came across. Like, can't be around these people. I got to go to my special club with the better people.
Yeah.
Today, years after leaving, I'm a pluralist. If people believe in God or gods, if people are religious, I'm generally cool with that. I've spoken plenty about religious harm on my channel, which is a very real problem, but I'm not against religion inherently. And even though I'm not religious, don't believe in the supernatural, and think that's best for some people, I actually think being religious can be good for a person, depending on the person and depending on the form of religion. So, to the Christians watching, keep this in mind. This is not a video where an anti-theist talks about how every form of Christianity is inherently evil. There's a lot of talk of a meaning crisis happening right now, particularly among younger people, and that one way Gen Z men are increasingly seeking meaning is through Christianity.
Now, luckily, we have a Gen Z man here. What are your thoughts on all that? Do you think that's true? Do you see that happening?
That's very true, and I'm happy to see that, because 5 years ago, I was making posts about how Gen Z men are so nihilistic, and there's a void in their hearts that needs to be filled with Christianity, and now they're filling it with Christianity, so I'm happy about that. So, yes, there are some negative side effects. The two negative side effects are, one, a lot of it is kind of just about being trad and reactionary and not about Christ. And connected to that, a lot of it is just like knee-jerk anti-Protestant, because they blame Protestantism for how bad things got. And a lot of people tell me that my videos helped convert them, and then they go and attack my religion. So it's like, come on. But overall, I think it's a net positive.
Yeah, I go ahead, Sandy. Do you want to say something?
I was just going to say it's interesting that so are you saying that in Gen Z people are opting for more high church
yes
non-Protestant traditions? I've heard that before.
In Gen Z, evangelicalism is a joke. And now, personally, again, you guys might not agree. That's okay. I agree. What I'm trying to do is trying to say you can have traditional Christianity that is still Protestant. All of the mainline Protestant churches, Presbyterian, Lutheran, Anglican, Methodist, even the traditional Baptists, are very, very traditional, care a lot about traditional values and worship and liturgy and stuff. But modern evangelicalism has supplanted that, not in reality, just in the minds of Generation Z. So Gen Z craves tradition. Now, Gen Z is craving traditional marriage and sexual ethics, also traditional church and traditional worship. One thing that we all need to agree on is that evangelicalism is not traditional. It is not. It might have traditional sexual ethics, but tradition is more than just what you can do with your sex life. It's also about liturgy and worship and all that. Now, so a lot of Gen Z associates evangelicalism with Protestantism as a whole. And I'm trying to say, actually, traditionally, Protestantism was not like that, and it hasn't been like that until like the Jesus Revolution in the 1970s. So that's why my main mission is Operation Reconquista, to revive the mainline Protestant churches that are now mostly populated by boomers. I'm trying to get young people into them.
Go ahead, Mike. I was just going to ask a question.
No, you can ask.
Do you know why they're craving traditional things in general, like the traditional Christian sexual ethic,
I can answer that.
Okay.
I would say, I think the reason is because I think evangelicalism has added to that. It's like that the idea behind the evangelical movement was, let's just get back to like the core essentials of what it is to be a Christian, and that's all we need, and that'll draw more people in from the culture, because they won't have to worry about all these rituals, all these extra things like the sacraments and all this stuff. Let's just preach Jesus and nothing else. That's all we need, guys. Like this idea behind the Jesus Revolution. But it left people feeling like they're missing something, because humans, I do think, crave the sacred. They crave rituals. They crave the idea of we are in profane space. We want to approach the sacred and feel something, feel like we're approaching the divine. And so I think the evangelical movement had a good motive, but I think they just didn't capture the whole understanding of human nature well. And also then secularism, the humanist atheist movement, exacerbated that, because now it's just like all religion is gone. And now Gen Z young people are all like, I'm really missing something. I mean, I either have evangelicalism or secularism, where I can have some religion, or I can have no religion, which is just going to leave me with hedonism, and that's going to suck. So just going all back to the traditional churches. And that's why you'll see surge in Orthodox, Catholicism, Anglican, Lutheran, Presbyterian as well, I guess. So yeah, that's.
I wish there was a surge in Presbyterianism, but it's really like a trickle, sort of the coattails of the rest of the movement. Now, I also believe in objective beauty. I believe that there is objective goodness, truth, and beauty, and that some, like, you could push back on this, especially you might because you're millennials, and millennials are the biggest fans of contemporary worship statistically. But
Totally.
I believe contemporary worship is objectively ugly. It just is. And Gen Z recognized that. I've never seen a Gen Z man sing contemporary worship with a straight face. The women are always like, and the men are like, so when a man realizes, if the man sees the options as, you know, Hillsong in his parents' mega church and the based Orthodox chants like Christos anesti, and then it's like, if they see that as the only two options, they obviously convert, and they don't realize that their grandma's Methodist church is singing "Be Thou My Vision" with organ and a great choir and stained glass and all.
That's either the best worship song or "Come Thou Fountain." One of those two.
Yeah, or "Holy, Holy, Holy," like lots of them.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Yeah, I get what you mean there. That makes sense. I would say as a millennial, I do like some traditional worship songs. I do think some of them, and I was even listening to a Catholic channel the other day, Sips with Sarah, and he had on an ex-Muslim Christian, and he was talking about how he really, when he converted, he was listening to 10,000 Reasons. So it's like, I think, and he's Catholic now. And so I was like, I still think they can affect people and they're good. I just understand where Gen Z is coming from.
Yeah.
All right, let's get back to this video because Drew has a different take on why Gen Z men are becoming Christian. Here it is.
They're looking for a re-enchantment of life where they can see significance and meaning in everyday things.
So when you have essentially decline in religion, an increase in the secular nature of society, for most people, they need something to fill that void.
We in the church have to do our very best to recover that sense of enchantment. Enchantment, in the way I use it, is simply the feeling that God is present and that everything has meaning, that there is ultimate transcendent meaning that we can know and relate to.
Again, if
I think that's kind of what you were talking about, Richard, a little bit, was like there's this lack of enchantment in evangelicalism that people are craving and missing. And I think the traditional churches get that. Like, you know, I've been very honest. I'm in a high church. I just don't say if it's Catholic, Orthodox, or High Church Protestant or Coptic. I just say I'm in a high church. And I do really appreciate that enchantment. I don't like that word, but I'll use it because of the context. But like, I do really appreciate the reverence for the communion or the Eucharist or the holy like aspects that are all there.
Now, to be perfectly historically accurate, a lot of people will describe Protestant churches with a beautiful building and organ and hymns as high church. That's not even high church because traditionally Congregationalists, Methodists, and Baptists were low church, and they still are theologically. They still had these enchanted things too. They still had beautiful churches, choirs, and still do in the mainline denominations. So I would say evangelicalism isn't even low church. It's just contemporary. It's charismatic. It's part of this extremely recent movement that was a complete rebellion against everything that came before.
I see where you're coming from, man.
So
again, if people,
go ahead.
Just quick. So because he brings up the meaning-making crisis, but then brings up these people talking about the enchantment that people Gen Zers are craving.
Yeah,
but those two things seem like different to me, at least.
To
me, meaning making is the idea that like your life actually has a purpose, and at least like by my own inner subjective experience, I know my life has a purpose, and I know the things that I go through have a purpose, regardless of whether or not I have some sort of enchanting experience of God's presence. You know what I'm trying to say?
I guess part of the meaning is belonging. The problem with non-denominational Christianity is you don't belong to anything other than the local congregation. And because church shopping is built into non-denominationalism, there's no commitment. Whereas if you join the Catholic Church or the Eastern Orthodox Church or the LCMS or the Presbyterian Church USA, like me, and you participate in the traditions, suddenly you're belonging to this huge body and being part of something that's existed for hundreds or thousands of years. So when I go into any PCUSA church, I know that this institution has grown up with America, and it's older than America itself. The PCUSA was founded in 1706. So, but if your church was founded in 2008, you're just a church plant in 2008, not part of any larger institution, you're not really belonging to anything except this tiny community that you might move away from when you go to college. So there isn't really this meaning or belonging. So I am very transparent about my views. I respect all denominations. Non-denominationalism isn't a denomination. So it might get souls into heaven, and that's great, of course, but is it going to solve the meaning crisis and give people enchantment? No.
Yeah, I mean, I get where you're coming from. I'm not totally against evangelicalism because I do see that, especially with recent statistics, they are better at keeping people in church than like Catholics are.
Oh, they're much better. They're the best on an individual basis. I think on an individual basis, evangelicals are the best at everything. Best at catechizing their kids, best at, being faithful, best at evangelism. But I think they're the worst on a collective basis. So they're the best at saving souls. They're the worst at transforming culture.
No. All right.
And Catholics are the opposite, I think.
Again, if people want to do that, I don't inherently have a problem with it. And I actually wish them well in finding a sense of fulfillment in their lives. But what's up with young men, not young women, being more attracted to Christianity? So first of all, this idea that young men are converting to Christianity en masse is not backed up by any statistic I can find. Clickbait articles from the New York Post have published this idea, but one denomination with only a couple 100,000 members in the US, growing by maybe even double-digit percentage points, does not actually demonstrate a particularly large trend. What we do know is that Gen Z men are more religiously affiliated, particularly with Christianity, than Gen Z women. Are they converting? Are they just sticking to their family's religion more? We're not sure. It actually could be both. If this article in the New York Times is any indication, young women are less interested in the church because they feel it harbors prejudicial attitudes against minorities. However, they still score higher than men on measures of spirituality and attachment to God, suggesting that they are not necessarily abandoning their internal beliefs. Young men, meanwhile, are attracted to the church because, as one campus minister puts it, Christianity is perceived as one institution that isn't initially and formally skeptical of them as a class. Additionally, religion is right-coded and coded more traditionalist for young people. A final thing from the
yeah, I think that's kind of what you were getting at. But I mean, he also brought up something that I thought was interesting, is that the church does not seem like it's against young men.
I mean, he's saying that like it's a bad thing almost.
I was gonna say,
young men are converting to the church because the church is so right wing they don't even hate men. What's wrong with them?
I feel like this should be like on a wake up call for someone like Drew. Like, do you realize what the left has been doing to young men for decades now? You're the problem. You need to take a back seat. You have toxic masculinity.
Even as a millennial, when I first became a Christian, that was one of the first things that I liked about Christianity when I was like actually exploring things, and I became one from being an atheist, was like, oh, I can actually just kind of be a dude. And
I have two questions for you guys. Number one, did you guys grow up going to public school?
Yeah.
Number two, in public school, were you shamed for being a straight white man and told that your opinion is not valuable by the teachers?
I was in the weird transition stage. So like my senior year of high school, I remember that being a thing. But before then, I could just like do the dumbest things. And
so I went to high school. I went to public school in New York, and we would often have open political discussions in class. The political discussion means you agree with the left, and that's it. And then you guys reinforce each other's agreements. So the whole class would comment on this. Like, I remember this thing with Amanda Gorman, that like young girl poet at Biden's inauguration. The politics of it are irrelevant, but everyone just agreeing with each other. And I made just one dissenting view to the progressive narrative, and immediately the whole class turned on me, and the teacher had to shut down the discussion. And the teacher explained to the whole class, we can't have a white man talking to black girls about race because it might make them feel threatened. And it's always very precious and valuable when a person of color shares their experience. It's like, okay, so it's not valuable when I share my thoughts and my experience. So I'm not alone. Guys in the comments section, tell me if the things like that have happened to you guys. where you guys were shamed simply for not being in one of those protected classes, and told that your opinions don't matter. So if you do that to men for a whole generation, then the second they find an alternative to that, they're gonna gravitate towards that.
Yeah, I was raised kind of in the 90s, which is we're all equal, it's all okay, it doesn't matter. And then all of a sudden in like the early 2000s, it started like, yeah, but some are more equal than others. It's you white men, and now you need to make up for it by being less equal. And it was like, what? Like, I wasn't there in the 70s and the 60s with this stuff. I like it was insane that the transition from like the early 90s to the 2000s, and you like, now all of a sudden it's pushing the kind of stuff you're talking about. And it like, yeah, men are going to gravitate towards an organization or an ideology where they feel like they're being allowed to be equal. Not that they have to sort of like take a back seat and become a cuck and just roll over for anything that basically just allows them.
Now, to be perfectly honest, because I'm a mainline Protestant, because I'm PCUSA, and sometimes my church was even more woke than my school. But even through all of that, I still saw a transcendent meaning in church that school did not offer. So this thinking can get dangerous. I think it's a retreatist mindset to tell people that they shouldn't join woke institutions, because woke people hijack all the good institutions. I think conservatives always lose the culture war because the progressives are always on the advance and the conservatives are always on the retreat. So I would say it's not bad to attend a woke church.
I agree.
Yeah, because most woke churches, there is still some preaching of the gospel. It's corrupted, but there's no such thing as a pure church. So church didn't appeal to me because it was non-woke. It's not like I'm one of these orthobros who went to a masculine church. My church was not very masculine. We had a woman pastor for 2 years. But even despite all that, there was the transcendent message of the gospel. And that is what gave me an alternative to the public school. It's not like church was a more conservative alternative to school.
Yeah, and yeah, I totally agree. I just feel like I think a lot of just young men, especially white men, because that's all we hear talk about now is race, is like they just felt like they're being rejected by the culture. So you're just, a lot of them feel forced to be counterculture. And what's counterculture now? Christianity. So I do disagree a little bit. I think Christianity is going to start taking back the culture. I think in some areas, the political left has retreated in certain ways.
I hope so. Now, here's something that the right always gets wrong. The right thinks in terms of individuals, whereas the left thinks in terms of institutions. The left is elitist, the right is populist. So I think the right is winning a lot of individuals right now. They're still not winning the institutions. And the institutions of higher academia and the media and entertainment are more important than the government. We need to subvert the academic institutions. We need Christians to go to Harvard, to join the media, and to join the mainline Protestant church.
That's kind of happening. The media is now so diverse now. I mean, you look at places like X, it's like the biggest media platform, and it's more right-wing now. I mean, you have alternative media.
I think you're right. I think Elon Musk taking over X is a good Twitter. I'm not calling it X. Is a good example of why you always need to retake the mainstream institutions and not split off and form new ones. Because when right-wingers had their own little ghettos like Parler or Truth Social, they had no impact. But when they took back the mainline media institution, they were able to have lots of influence. So likewise, we need to retake the mainline media, the mainline churches, the mainline universities. I think that is how Christians can take back the culture. If we want to keep being a counterculture, that's fine, but we're going to keep being a counterculture.
Yeah. Well, at some points, there's just a cycle. Counterculture becomes a culture, and then the cycle just sort of keeps going through. So,
from this article, this is a Gen Z guy talking. Young men are attracted to harder truths, Mr. Ferrier said. Sometimes, he added, he wants to hear messages with a little wrath of God in them. So the boys want their Christianity a little rough, a little cranky.
Yes. Yes.
I love how he worded that. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's like sermons that talk about the human condition, that are honest about human sin. That is what we need.
Yeah, I don't know. I agree.
Is that isolated to Gen Z men? Is that like really isolated?
I think that's just a man thing. I think at some point, like that just resonates with men more. I mean, like, I don't see that as a bad thing necessarily, because if we are sinners, wrath of God is an important aspect of the Christian message. Like, it's the whole idea of like, you should respect authority. If we're going off like Jonathan Haidt's research about the different moral foundations, the left has like equality and the harm factor, but there's not a high respect for authority or loyalty or purity. Yeah. And like, there is an aspect of respecting authority, which is good. And Jonathan Haidt talks about this in ways that liberals should appreciate. For example, Haidt brought up the idea, like, because liberals don't respect authority, we see students rebelling against teachers in the inner city or in the suburbs because they've not nurtured that moral foundation. And that has negative consequences for society. So yeah, there should be some teaching about respect for authority and don't cross certain lines, because there's that wrath aspect from higher authorities that you need to keep in mind. Oh, crap. I don't know. He just turned his camera off. He's probably doing something. Anyway, I'll play a little bit more.
He probably just doesn't have his pants on and needed to get up.
It'd be like that sometimes. We'll just keep playing. If he had to take care of something, he can do that. Yeah. But I skipped over the ad in the video for obvious reasons.
Attracted to Christian institutions because they perceive them to take an aggressive posture, presumably against supposed evil, and because Christian institutions do not typically place blame on men for that evil. I think certain far-right figures know this well and are seeking to offer young men a very specific solution to the so-called meaning crisis through a particular brand of Christianity.
Okay. You okay, Richard? You like disappeared there for a second.
Oh yeah, I accidentally locked out my wife.
Oh.
Yeah, typical Christian male with the white privilege.
Yeah, I was being a misogynist. I was actually locking her out of political power.
In the forthcoming book, The Shadow Gospel, How Anti-Liberal Demonology Possessed U.S. Religion, Media, and Politics, co-authors Whitney Phillips and Mark Brockway explore the history of a dark, politically expedient form of Christianity. This is where I found the term dark enchantment. As cultural theorist Daniel Wojcik emphasizes, religious apocalypticism is acutely appealing as a form of dark enchantment. Enchantment as a vernacular religious framework describes how humans create meaning, make sense of things, and enliven their existence in a world seen as drab, mechanistic, and soulless, and which is replete with randomness, adversity, and suffering. Dark enchantment is equally enlivening, Wojcik argues, but is derived from the perception of darker forces at work in human existence, including demons, evil conspiracies, and various flavors of apocalypticism. As Wojcik explains, it can be exciting to be thrust in the middle of a cosmic end times drama. One's life takes on newfound significance. And for those who are certain that they are the chosen ones, cosmic significance contributes to heightened self-esteem in the face of perceived evil.
So what is the problem here? I was kind of confused by this quote. I was kind of confused. I'm like, so young men feel the need to have purpose and meaning, so they take on this apocalyptic idea that they're fighting evil forces like demons or sin. That's a bad thing? Is that the implication that we're getting from these authors and Drew? I'm like, what's the problem? Maybe I'm missing something.
So in some sense, like, yeah, all Christians believe like all of life is a cosmic battle, but if he's talking about like blaming demons for political things and talking about the end times, that applies much more to like dispensationalist boomer conservatism than to like high church Gen Z Christianity.
Yeah, which is mostly amillennialists, you know.
Yeah, Gen Z is mostly amillennial. Like it was like our grandparents, I mean my grandparents were like Jews, but most of like the boomer generation of conservative Christians, they were the ones speculating about politics and saying like Obama's the Antichrist. I heard that from some boomer one time. If that's true, he's the most laid back Antichrist I've ever seen. But Gen Z generally does not have like these wild speculations. Gen Z tends to appeal to like tradition, not to modern conspiracy theories. So they still will appeal to things I would disagree with. They would say like, oh, the vast majority of people throughout history were racist, so we should be too. But no, they're not talking about like end times conspiracies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the other thing is like, in terms of how this is bad, I'm confused. Your perceived evil, according to atheists, is imaginary because they don't believe in demons or sin. But I mean, like, it's not against people or a race or another nation. It's against spiritual things. If anything, Christianity would be doing a favor to the atheists because now you're directing anger and hatred against things you don't even think exist. So yeah, you could maybe make a case that if someone gets crazy and thinks everyone is possessed by a demon, then they could cause more harm to society. But those seem to be the rare exceptions. It seems far more likely most people are like, you know, they're attacking things that the atheists don't think exist. It's like atheists getting mad at us for believing in hell, and that's going to cause harm. No. That's a good thing. You should be happy about that because we're saying God will judge you in the afterlife. It's not our job. It's not our job to enact judgment or punishment or retribution on you. Therefore, live your life. God will deal with you, and you don't think hell exists. So why are you upset about hell? You should be happy that doctrine exists. Yeah. It prevents, Miroslav Volf talked about this. It prevents this cycle of vengeance and violence if you think God's going to do that.
Something I noticed is that because leftists and atheists don't believe in hell, they try to create hell on earth for their political enemies.
That is an interesting take. Yeah, I get what you mean by that. And that, again,
I'm thinking of 2020 when the left let cities burn for supposed basically punishing white people.
Well, I mean, I forget who, but maybe it was one of the maybe it was Michael Shermer or someone that says like wokeism has taken a lot of stuff from Christianity, except the aspect of forgiveness. Like they don't forgive. It's like if you're a sinner, if you don't toe the woke line or the progressive line, but there's no forgiveness. So like you get ostracized and you have to do penance and all this stuff, and you're still never forgiven. So yeah,
I just bought the book.
Then it just the Shadow Gospel.
Yeah,
of course you did.
I'm gonna look through it.
All right, look through it. I'm confused by what the problem is here.
Here, based off a surface level glance, Drew, if you're watching this, it's a surface level glance. I'm sorry if I'm wrong. Their research is failing to take into account the difference between intrinsic and extrinsic religiosity. Because everything they're pointing to so far has more to do with like alt-right, like fascism, as the people would actually call it.
We'll get into that.
Nationalism and not intrinsic religiosity. That again, I could be wrong, but that's just what it looks like from a cursory glance of what I'm looking at so far.
That's when I'll get to my slides. Yeah.
Chosen ones. Cosmic significance contributes to heightened self-esteem in the face of perceived evil. Few, if any, I'd argue, are more effective in and focused on delivering a sense of dark enchantment to young men than Charlie Kirk, who is arguably the most powerful, popular, and influential figure in Gen Z Christianity.
You see, Richard, he's so influential. How have you not heard of him?
Of course, I've heard of Charlie Kirk. He is not an influential figure in Gen Z Christianity. I think he was influential in older Gen Z politics 7 years ago. He is not an influential figure in Gen Z Christianity today.
He's got a lot of power now. Like he's got a lot of grassroots movements. He's moved a lot of states right with voter registration campaigns. I did a lot of stuff behind the scenes, but I get your point. I don't think he's like a Gen Z star among Christians. He's a Gen Z star among people that are politically enticed.
Like, there is a correlation between Gen Z conservatives and Gen Z Christians, but they're not the same group. It's like a lot of people are both. A good number of people are both. They've always influenced each other, but they're not the same thing.
Yeah. Well said. You said it better than I could. Yeah.
I'm Charlie Kirk, founder of Turning Point USA and Turning Point Action, together the largest conservative grassroots organizations in the country.
He started Turning Point USA in 2012, and today it has over...
Look at the little bugger right there. He really aged. He looks so young and innocent there. I mean, man.
Oh my gosh, dude. How old was he in here?
I don't know. That was 13 years ago, I think. So, man, wow.
In 2012, and today it has over 800 chapters and over 250,000 members. It started as a political organization to mobilize young people on college campuses to vote Republican, But now it's marketing itself as a Christian ministry in actual churches. Kirk went on to forge a relationship with Pastor.
See, now I think that's a problem. I really do believe in the separation of church and state. I don't think this is what I said about earlier that Charlie Kirk is sort of like he's crossed the line between politics and Christianity too much. And like, if he's doing that, that's a problem. I don't think he should be trying to use Christianity to push right-wing views. Let's keep those separate. I see that as a problem.
Pastor Rob McCoy, head of Godspeed Calvary Chapel of Thousand Oaks in California. And together they founded Turning Point Faith. The effort reaches out to pastors nationwide to encourage them to embrace political messages as a church growth strategy, an initiative that has doubled as an engine for turning out the pastors' congregations for conservative candidates.
If I ever go to a church and they're preaching politics, I leave immediately. I don't. That is not.
Now,
not do that.
I've been to churches that preach left-wing politics, and I didn't leave. I tried to correct them, and I succeeded. We got rid of our pastor who was doing that. But I want people to understand Charlie Kirk, what he's doing is cringe, but most of the far-right Gen Z Christians think Charlie Kirk is cringe. Most of what Genetically Modified Skeptic doesn't understand, I am not one of the far-right Gen Z Christians, but the far-right Gen Z Christians, like the Nick Fuentes fans, they hate the Republicans and the Democrats. They are not about voting Republican. They say we need to abolish the United States and return to a based monarchy. Like, that's what they're saying. They are not. They make fun of Charlie Kirk, and they hate anyone who's pro-Israel, for example. And because Charlie Kirk always has been, that they hate him. So that's why I say there is a movement of Gen Z conservatism, and there is a Gen Z far right Christian movement. They're not the same thing.
Yeah,
they might influence each other. They're not the same thing.
And I'm not saying faith should not impact our politics. Yeah. I'm saying you should not be going to church to hear a political message. Of course, your faith is going to impact your politics. Politics trickles down from culture. Culture trickles down from religion often. Yes. More often than not. So, but you don't go to church to hear a political message. You go to church to hear the gospel. And one of my other problems with Drew is he's highlighting this fact that the right wing does this, but sir, have you been to one of the progressive churches? They're far worse. The progressive churches, it's just a left wing political campaign rally almost every time. It's absurdly obnoxious and annoying. And if you're upset the right church is doing that, believe me, go to a progressive church. You'll hear it amplified. So why is that not a problem or not being highlighted as much when the right does it a little bit? I think, when the right does it, it's a problem. I don't see it that often. I don't hear about it that often. Yeah. It's sort of in the back corner. Sometimes you hear that, but typically when it happens, a lot of people on the right go, no, this is church. We don't do that here. There's a small group that likes it and promotes it, but they're not the majority as far as I've seen. But with the progressive churches, there's no Christianity. It's just left-wing politics galore.
Yeah. What I'll notice, I've been to many mainline Protestant and evangelical churches. The liberal mainline churches focus only on politics. In a lot of conservative evangelical churches, you will hear politics sometimes, especially abortion or gay marriage, but that's not the main theme of what they're preaching. It's not the whole sermon is about Trump. The church might take official stances, but generally the conservative churches are much more likely to have the focus be something spiritual or about theological.
I've traveled a lot in the last 3 years and gone to a lot of different churches in my travels. And not once have I heard a conservative, political talking point sermon from anybody. And I've been to Catholic, Orthodox, and Protestant churches all over the country. I just don't get it. And if anything, when it comes to conservative talking points, I find Christians to be more obsessed with Jordan Peterson. I hear that name way more than I hear Charlie Kirk.
Yeah. Here's another good reason to keep Christian out of politics. This commenter, I'm a Christian lefty. Yeah, that's the beauty of Christianity. It's not a political religion. We can have our politics. It should be like it was in the 90s when there were Democrats and Republicans going to the same church, but they were Christian.
I know conservatives will cancel me for this. You can be a liberal Christian or a Christian lefty. I think it requires cognitive dissonance on some issues. It depends on which issues you're liberal on. But yeah, you can be a Christian liberal. Liberal Christian's a bit different. You can be a Christian liberal. And like my old pastor from my PCUSA church in New York, he's liberal on like gay marriage and other political issues. I disagree with him, but he's still a Christian, and he is very clearly a Christian. So yes, you can be Christian and lefty. I would disagree with you, especially if you're lefty on like abortion or gay marriage, but it's not impossible the way the right wingers will say.
No, and that I think that's what we need to get back to, a culture that is Christian, of left and right. What happened, I think, in the past 25 years is just the left went very secular or atheist, and then they started associating Christianity with the right, and the right was very happy to take that identity, and they exacerbated it. And so now it's just sort of has become, if you're on the right, you're Christian. And so now there's people on the right that don't go to church and just identify as Christian because it's on the right, and they think that's part of the culture, and that's a problem.
Yeah.
All right.
Really quick, Mike, because we're at the 1 hour mark. We're at the 1 hour mark, and Matt will scold me if I don't do this. If you guys find the things that we do here, the things that it's not letting me add this to the stage, Mike. What, did you take away my privileges?
No, I can't do that. I fixed it there.
Thank you. If you guys like what we do here and find the type of work that we do valuable, please consider going to the donate page. I linked that into the live stream chat as well. Remember that we're trying to get enough funds going so I can do this full time. And in that way I can bother Mike even more. So just please consider doing that. We have so many cool things we're working on.
Yeah. If you want me to be more annoyed and more grumpy in my videos that you enjoy laughing at, you need to donate more so we can hire Than full time, because I will be super grumpy with him annoying me, I assure you.
Exactly. So there we go.
Speaking of Than, which Than is the most Riz Max Sigma?
Riz
more than one Than?
Maxed Sigma.
That is quite some Gen Z language there. I don't know what's going on.
I don't even think it is. Sigma is not even Gen Z. Sigma's like Gen Alpha.
Freaking Gen Alpha. As I call them, Gen A.
Gen A.
Can you tell us any of your summer debate topics? I'll be debating a Muslim in July on which is better for humanity, Christianity, or Islam. I don't know. I don't know if I can announce the unbelievable ones yet. They'll do that in early June, but it should just be 2 conversations. But yeah, just keep an eye out for them. The milk floweth. I'm here from Lore Lodge. Howdy. Well, thank you to Lore Lodge for sending you guys over. We really appreciate that. And hopefully we can collab with them sometime soon as well. Zoomer, why is Scaled and Icy your fave top album? What?
My favorite 21 Pilots album. I don't know. I just like the sound of it. And I'm like one of the only 21 Pilots fans that doesn't have depression. So maybe that's like their like pop album is the one that appeals most to me.
Oh, fair point. The theistic evolution conversation came with homeschool mom, who have never heard it, can be biblical. Still super friendly conversations, just need to be clear. Yeah, I mean, watch the videos we put out on theistic evolution, then use the arguments there. I don't know what you would need to be helped with, but yeah, just watch the Genesis 1 to 11 series. Watch the video, Can You Be a Christian and Believe in Evolution? Watch the video, Was Evolution Inevitable? So yeah, those will help.
Yep, good stuff.
Please don't block me. I'm not a bot. Okay. You got it, sir.
That's what a bot would say.
Genetically Modified Skeptic is right. I started reading my Bible, and now I'm a Christian ethno-nationalist who believes in church-run state and said in the Injil. Well, you read the wrong gospel. You read the Injil and not the Gospels. And where did you get a copy of the Injil? We've been looking for that.
Yes.
Yeah, like if Jesus actually wrote a book himself, don't you think Christians would have preserved it?
No, obviously not. Paul said no, so we said no. We got to get rid of.
Yeah, everyone knows we really follow Paul. I mean, we do, but
yeah. When is Michael hopping on Minecraft? Never. There.
Didn't you say that if Richard gets a roll taper fade?
Well, at my last live stream, my thumbnail was a picture of me with a low taper fade, so that's proof that I got one.
I don't believe you. I need to see it I need to see it here in front of me, and I still need to figure out what it is because I'm not entirely sure.
I want Mike to have a
Oh,
low
no.
fade.
This is a low taper fade.
What? I don't.
Yeah, this haircut. This is a low taper fade. You said you didn't know what it is, so this is what it is.
Is it?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Comments. Tell him that it's a low taper fade.
I don't believe. I'm looking at pictures. It doesn't look the same.
No. This is a low taper fade.
Here, Mike.
What?
One sec.
What?
I will show you a low taper fade.
Show me.
No. This is a picture of a low taper fade. You see, I basically have that.
No, this is different. This is
no. They're lying. This is what a low taper fade is. That means you have to play Minecraft.
This is the haircut that you need.
It's the Ruslan haircut, isn't it? The broccoli head. Yeah, it's Ruslan. To be fair, if the devil ever had a hold on someone's heart, it is Hillary Clinton. Okay, fair enough. I'll give you that. Tim Pool made a vid about the Pope prophecy. You seen it? Yeah, I'll have a. I'm gonna have a video on the Pope prophecy tomorrow. So little short, like 2 minutes. I recorded it today.
Reference to.
Dude, you don't heard of the Pope prophecy? There's a guy. So Saint Malachi in the 1200s allegedly predicted like every pope. He listed like 112 popes. The problem is that the prophecy was rediscovered in 1590, and like all the popes prior to that, it was like super accurate. And then all the popes that came after 1590 in this list are like vague or just plain wrong. And like the last one is supposed to be Peter the Roman. And so people are like, there was 3 cardinals in line who could get elected pope and be Peter the Roman. And he's allegedly the last one. But actually, according to the list, the 112th pope on the list would be Pope Francis. And he has no correlation to Peter the Roman. But they're saying like maybe there was like a gap, or maybe there's a smite. There might be a one in between 111 and 112, which is just nonsense. But it's a huge, ridiculous prophecy. I'll have a video on it tomorrow. You all should watch it. You'll get a better understanding of it.
Okay.
Drew seems to think moralism is Christianity. Maybe. Yeah, maybe. If the Jews are still God's chosen people, does that mean God sends his chosen people to hell because they don't believe in the Messiah? Well,
it depends on what you mean by chosen.
Yes, and there is no salvation outside of Christ.
Based.
Yeah. Doctor walks in the hospital. What's with all these sick people? I'm out of here. Yeah, that's true.
It's genetically modified skeptic. People don't like Christianity because
how dare all these people be sick when I go to church? They're supposed to be perfect. Guys, I'm a Baptist. What's the best evidence for infant baptism biblically? I know the Bible mentions children baptized, but never specifics. They were infants. Big fan of y'all. The early church was very clear that they were baptizing infants. 2nd century, boom, it's happening.
And I know Baptists think that church history is not real. So if you want scripture alone, Peter said, "Be baptized, you and your children," and they baptized entire households. My wife told me a joke. It's like news headline: entire household gets murdered in armed robbery. Baptists. Luckily, the children weren't harmed.
Good point. I like that analogy. Yeah. Dan, there's a comic book in the works by me, and it's tackling the problem of evil and suffering using thy theodicy. If possible, would you help me? And he adds, what I mean by that, Than, is that when I become fully committed to the creation of the comic, would you be willing to help me out with its creation?
Shoot me an email with what exactly you would want from me, because I don't know what helping you means, right? If you're looking for somebody to help make the story and make art, I can't do that. If you're looking for somebody to just help with understanding the theodicy and giving application to it, for sure, just shoot me an email.
Did you guys see Rhett on with Alex O'Connor? He just had normal atheist arguments, then said apologist YouTubers will respond to this with excuses because they have nothing better to do. Yeah, we're going to respond to that Monday, Than and I and some other people. So we're already on it, you see. So I'm sure they said that kind of nonsense because that's...
They really said...
Listen, it's a bunch of BS because anytime we come up with an argument, they don't want to respond. They just go, "You're just making an excuse." I'm just going to say
this. Eugenics, Mike.
It's like you guys are so lazy. Respond to the argument. Like,
I feel like I'm arguing with toddlers half the time. They just want to foot stomp.
Yeah, it's like they say, "Oh, you can't explain this," and when we explain this, they'll say, "Oh, you're just coping."
Simple. Things are very chaotic now. The new generation no longer wants carrots; they want sticks now. Order and objective meaning. Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head, Brandon. I think that's accurate. I think A.W. Tozer explains this well. Too much emphasis on accepting Christ and not on constant pursuit. People accept, then they're like, good to go. And then they think they're good to go. Yeah. And there's a lot more to following Christ. I think there's a very important aspect in humanity that wants to approach what we would perceive to be the sacred. We are living in the profane and we approach the sacred, like the Eucharist. There's something there that gives us a fulfilling sense that we are matter, that we belong to something greater than ourselves. That's one of my problems I have with evangelicalism, just a disrespect for communion. Just here's your little snack pack of communion. Go for it. You know. Trey says, Council of IP, can you steel man both sides of seeking intercessory prayer from saints? Why it's not wrong versus why it's wrong? Sure. Yes, I can. Why? Because you asked other people to pray for you. Why wouldn't you ask the saints to pray for you as well? So why not ask the saints who are closer to God and Mary, who's the mother of Jesus, to pray for you if you're going to ask people on this plane to pray for you? The other side is like, listen, why not just talk to God directly? I mean, that's what we're called to do in Scripture. The Holy Spirit is right here. Why waste time talking to dead saints in prayer when anytime we go into prayer, we should be talking to God directly, which we can and should do. So there's me trying to steel man both positions. Unless you guys want to add anything. I don't care. Why are apologists scared to discuss full preterism? We're not. We're just annoyed because full preterists can be quite annoying.
Yeah.
No, you're scared.
Here we go. I've been wanting to get to this one. Darth Than is here. I have turned to the dark side. No apologist has the power to defeat me in my wonderful army of skeptics. Long live the Empire. Do you see what you did, Redeem Zoomer, by not granting him the rank of master earlier? This is all your fault.
When did I not grant him the rank?
No, that was you, Mike.
No, that wasn't me. That was Redeem Zoomer.
No, that was Mike.
I feel like I'm being gaslit.
You are. We are. We're definitely. Best at individual things, opposite for Catholics. This is why I think both are very important and serve different roles in the body of Christ. Totally agree. I just hope we can eventually become united as one body eventually. Yeah. I think there's a lot of good stuff that evangelicals can learn from High Church and a lot of good stuff High Church can learn from evangelicals. I think we should accept each other's pros and cons and work with that. Before ELCA, which is Evangelical Lutheran Church of America, overreached, it had a trad. Yeah, it was that. Yeah, ELCA is dying right now because of how.
Now I know some guys that are trying to revive it, so I don't think we should give up on ELCA.
I've seen some bad stuff. I hope you're right, but like the problem is that they got control. The liberals got control of like the Lutheran seminaries of ELCA. And like just
the same was true of Athanasius in the early church. The Arians had control of everything, and he didn't give up.
Fair enough. Fair point. Yeah. Apostate Prophet says nobody is watching this channel. Don't make super chats. You see? Are they streaming right now? Is that the problem?
I'll check it out.
No, I'm gonna check it out. I'm curious.
I'm checking it out first.
Don't sons of yes, they are. So they're probably bragging because they've got like 2,000 people watching. So no one leave and watch their lame channel doing the same old Islam stuff we've already seen them do 1,000 times. Stay here and watch something different.
Yes.
We do different stuff on this channel. Mm-hmm. We are unique. So all right, let's get back to the video because I want to get to my slides. But back to the sinister aspects of the far right.
Political messages Kirk and his allies espouse have also come to include constant defense of Trump as well as Christian nationalism. McCoy has spread falsehoods about the January 6, 2021 attack on the U.S. Capitol, for example, and has defended a member of his church sentenced to jail for his role in the insurrection.
I know nothing about that. I didn't even care to look up because I don't care.
Yeah.
Whatever. Politics. It's not helpful. And none of this is actually telling us how the far right is using sinister ways to keep Gen Z men Christian. There's not a lot of this video devoted to the actual title of the video.
That's what I'm waiting for.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and leftists always overestimate how much conservative Christians care about political as opposed to cultural issues.
Yes.
Yes. Well, that's why we have you on. You say things so much better than I could say it. So appreciate that.
By the way, I have no relationship to Pastor McCoy here. I actually do have relationships to a few Pastor McCoys, but not this one. We might share a kind of cowboy ass last name, but I don't know him. I don't condone him. Thank you. Just a brief look into Charlie Kirk's messaging to his primarily young male audience reveals an apocalyptic ideology obsessed with supposed evil.
Our form and structure of government was built for the people that believed in Christ our Lord. One of the reasons we're living through a constitutional crisis is that we no longer have a Christian nation, but we have a Christian form of government, and they're incompatible. So you cannot have liberty if you do not have a Christian population.
The fact that people are out here with a different religion than me is what's causing all the problems. You, watching at home, cannot be free until everyone stops being different from me.
Okay, this is where I wanted to stop on this, because I don't think he's representing this well. Charlie is right. He may not have worded that the best, but he's not wrong. And that doesn't come from me. That's coming from a liberal, gay, Jewish atheist named Jonathan Roch, who I had on my channel like 2 months ago to talk about his book called Cross Purposes. He said the same thing, that we need Republican virtues, and that comes out of a Christian population. We're losing that Christian population. People on the left are abandoning Christianity, and people on the right are becoming more following more of a political religion. And so they're losing these virtues that will obtain and sustain the Republican virtues or the freedoms that we love and endure. Tom Holland has made similar arguments. John Compton has made similar arguments. It's this idea that, yeah, actually, Jonathan Roch says, yeah, I am throwing in the towel on achieving a secular society because it doesn't work. We actually do need a Christian population, and that's coming from a gay atheist of the Brookings Institute, who's making this point and saying, actually, no, there's a point there. We do need a Christian population to sustain these virtues, these aspects of government, these Bill of Rights that we love so much. Without it, that dissolves.
Now, when is Genetically Modified Skeptic going to tell Israel to stop being based on the Jewish faith? Or when's he going to tell Turkey to stop being centered around the Islamic faith? Or telling India to stop being centered around Hinduism? It's like a lot of countries are either explicitly or implicitly connected to a particular religion. Yeah. But people only seem to be pissed about that when it's America or Christianity.
Yeah, and let me get to some slides here. So first, I'll go through my slides quickly that I presented in my debate with Lawrence Krauss. I mean, the Samuel Stroop study from 2021 found that Christian nationalism and white nationalism is rising among the least churched individuals. That they're seeing that actually people on the right, if you go to church, Christian nationalism declines, white nationalism declines. Similar results.
You know what the Gen Z word for this is? LARPing. LARPing.
Oh, LARPing.
Yeah.
When people post a lot of Christian aesthetics because they like the cultural meaning of it, but do not actually participate in Christianity.
Yeah. It's like the people a couple months ago that were saying Christ is king only to own the Jews, but they don't actually believe it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, at the same time, I do think that it's cringe to get offended by the phrase Christ is king just because some people are using it that way. So there was something on the other side too, but yeah, I know what you mean. Some people were just trying to use Christianity as an aesthetic.
Similar results were also found in Europe, that voting for a far-right party was less likely the more people attended church or were actually Christian. So additional research has found this as well, like unchurched Christian nationalists are more likely to favor an authoritarian figure. Europe, Christian religiosity tends to make one less likely to vote for a far-right party. And this is what we see with Roger Brubaker and Philip Gorski pointing this kind of stuff out, is that what happens is when you remove Christianity, people on the right keep the Christian identity and they reinterpret Christian symbols in political means, turning Christianity more into a civilization or a national ideology. No longer aspects associated with traditional Christianity. So I brought all this up in my debate with Lawrence Krauss, and I decided all this research showing this kind of stuff, that generally what we get is Christian nationalism comes out of least churched individuals on the right. It comes out of people leaving Christianity, but keeping the symbols of Christianity and reinterpreting them in political ways. So Charlie Kirk is technically right here when we move away. Now, I don't think he's doing it the right way. I think he's making things more political, but he's technically right in that thing that when we move away from traditional Christianity, we're going to start moving more into authoritarianism, more into political religiosity, and that's a problem. So atheists actively deconverting people like these nut jobs out there like Mr. Dede, who's, you know, probably one of the worst I've seen. He actually thinks he's doing a good thing. He's not. He's making the world a more authoritarian place. John Compton, who I've talked about, is coming out with a book called Untethered Belief or Untethered Believers in a year or so, and he's already given some of his preliminary research. I've linked his lectures below if you want to see it, but I've reached out to him and I've been talking to him about his slides, and he was nice enough to send them to me. But he notes if you look over the past like 2 decades, we've seen not so much a rise in atheists, but specifically untethered believers and nothing in particular. So untethered believers are people that identify as Christian, but they don't go to church. They don't read the Bible. They don't know any of the Christian doctrines. They identify it for like cultural reasons. They think it's fake, that kind of stuff. They may call themselves Christian. They may say they believe in Jesus, but they don't know anything about it. And they're not associated with any sort of organized religion.
I mean, this is exactly what happened with the Nazis and just fascism and extremist ideologies in the 20th century in general. Happened to Europe before America, but I think it might be coming to America. It's like when traditional religion declines, extremist politics and social theories always replace it.
Yeah. Compton notes in his research that actually atheists and organized believers are more likely to support democratic values. But atheists are actually going to cause more polarization in that they're going to push other people who disagree with them away from their beliefs. Whereas organized believers seem to be the good middle ground in that promoting democratic values and not being too polarizing. He notes support for removing constitutional constraints on a president decreases, or it's better if you never attend religious service or rarely, you're more likely to be in favor of that. He notes support for removing constitutional constraints on a president by religious category. Again, organized believers are the lowest on this, even lower than atheists are. And you can see the untethered believers are the worst. He notes that belief that violence is a legitimate way of pursuing political goals. Okay, the more likely you attend religious service, the less likely you are to agree with that. You should not be involved in any violence. When we look at like the different categories here, again, we see looking just at Democrats. So all Dems that are like atheists, for example, they're more likely to support that than organized believers. So if someone like Drew, Genetically Modified Skeptic, is worried about more violence, he should be wanting more people, especially Democrats, to go to church. Because here we see atheists, nothing in particular, and untethered believers more likely to support that kind of stuff. And that's a problem, I would say. Compton's research also finds that negative forms of political engagement, it looked by religious attendance. Again, with weekly at service attendance, it decreases these negative forms. More likely you are going to go to church, you're going to see higher rates of that. When we divide that into different categories, we see, this is what I find interesting, is that organized believers tend to fall, they'll make political arguments. They tend to be pretty low on causing damaged relationships. Look at atheists, though. They seem to be the highest in causing damaged relationships and in creating more political arguments, which again goes back to the earlier slide about them being more polarizing. They're not helping the situation. They're pushing more people away with polarization effects. Organized believers, again, as I said, seem to be a pretty good middle ground. When it comes to positive forms of political engagement by religious attendance, again, weekly service attendance associated with is a good thing there. We divide it into groups. Again, who comes out on top? It's organized believers, it seems, for sure. Now, what was one more thing? I found this slide interesting. I just found this kind of weird. Negative feelings towards outgroups by religious category. Who is going to, again, organized believers seem to be the good middle ground. Fear of immigrants is low. And the dislike of rural Americans, very low. But atheists have a very high dislike of rural Americans. Like those country bumpkins out there, we hate them. It's like it's really interesting in terms of that research there that Compton has found that atheists don't like people in the farmlands.
Yeah.
And the Republican atheists are more fearful of immigrants than the organized belief. Man, that goes against that goes against a lot of the basic narratives you hear about Christians in America.
Yeah, it is interesting to see that.
Even I'm surprised by some of this data, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, this goes back to a point then that I was talking to Compton about, is that what Charlie Kirk said is technically right, and this is Jonathan Roch noted this again of the Brookings Institute, not a Christian, gay in a gay marriage. I had him on the channel, liberal, atheist, Jewish background. We need more Christianity to maintain Republican virtues, get away from authoritarianism, keep our democracy and freedom. That's what we need. And we're losing it right now because religiosity in America is declining. That is, I mean, like, the data backs it up.
It's like sort of when Richard Dawkins, I'm sure you've talked about this before. Well, when Richard Dawkins says we need cultural Christianity back because now we have Ramadan lights and terrorist attacks. So.
Well, yeah, that's another. I said this when I had Hunter Avalon on my channel. I want to see Christianity increase because secularism is going to destroy the West and going to destroy the West with its low birth rates. And I don't want to see gays thrown off rooftops because that's what happens in a Salafi Islamic culture. So I want to protect gays because I believe in human rights and I believe they're the image of God. Therefore, I want more people to be Christian and we maintain the West from this monster coming out of the East. Again, I don't think a lot of the secular liberals, and I'm not saying this is true, but I think a lot of the secular atheists don't realize the damage they're doing by trying to get rid of Christianity. And some people like Jonathan Roch, even Peter Boghossian in some instances, is realizing, hey, there's something bad here happening. We need to deal with this. Yeah. So that's what I would love to hear Drew comment on, that this research here. Like, what is his take on this? Like, if he wants to get away from authoritarianism, if he's worried about far-right authoritarianism or just authoritarianism in general, shouldn't he want more people on the right to be in church? I said this in my debate with Lawrence Krauss. You should want more right-wingers in church. Like, just look at John Compton's research. It's astounding. And I cannot wait for when his book comes out. I'm going to have him on the channel immediately.
Yeah.
I want to ask honest question to Genetically Modified Skeptic. Would you rather have right-wing Christians or right-wing atheists / pagans? Because do you know who
or right-wing Muslims?
Oh no.
You know who is the biggest driver of like actual unapologetic, unironic racism on the right? It is neo-pagans.
Yeah, the European BS we see. Oh, I hate that.
Yeah, luckily I've never met a neo-pagan in real life because they never come out of their caves and touch grass. But on the internet, they do exist.
Well said there. Well said. All right, let's get back to the video. Rant over. But yeah, that's what I would love to see Drew comment on. If anyone can tell him, hey, IP's not trying to be hostile. He really wants to hear your opinion on this research.
Yeah, I really do want to hear it too.
Yeah, I would love to hear what he has to say on that, because I've been shouting from the rooftops for a while. We need more Christianity to protect us from the rise of right-wing authoritarianism, to protect us from the invasion of Islam. Like, hello, please wake up, atheists, please.
I've been waiting for an atheist content creator to tackle this stuff for a long time.
Yeah. I know. And it's just we're not getting good responses. Rationality rules. Anyway.
Everyone stops being different from me.
I'm sorry, if I see a black pilot, I'm gonna be like, boy, I hope he's qualified.
Now that is when I heard that, I'm like, Charlie should have apologized for that. I don't think that. I get what he's trying to say. That does not come across in good taste. It comes across the wrong way, but we'll get into what he actually meant here in a second.
Black people are a threat to our safety because DEI is giving them power over us that they don't deserve. Never mind that DEI initiatives don't mean putting people without training on a dangerous job just because of their race. Adjusting your hiring practices and doing sensitivity training does not mean regular training just doesn't happen. Obviously, Kirk is using this as an excuse to just shit on non-white people.
listen, I would agree with Drew that was said in bad taste.
Yeah.
Said the wrong way, but that's not what I think Charlie was trying to say. I found a video of him clarifying when someone brought it up here.
Last year, you said something about DEI, unqualified black pilots. You see a pilot on a black pilot. Don't you think it was an irresponsible statement suggesting that maybe these pilots aren't qualified or unqualified?
No. But I'll tell you exactly what I said and why I said it.
Okay, go ahead.
I said, the pretext, I went through a whole windup. I said, United Airlines is saying that they want 40% of all their pilots to be people of color or women. We have learned that we have relaxed standards anytime that we try to reach racial quotas. Anytime we reach racial quotas, we relax the standards. Standards for air traffic control, professors, or college admissions. Therefore, when it comes to pilots or surgeons, if I see somebody who is black, as I said on the show, I'm going to hope that person is qualified. That's what I said, which of course is legitimate because they're begging the question. We're not hiring based on merit anymore. We're hiring based on race.
So I just wanted him to clarify. I see again. I don't think she's, as Drew said, crapping on black people. I think he actually had a reason to say that. I just don't think he said it in good taste.
It came out very poorly.
What I've learned as a public figure, I'm sure you guys have learned the same thing, is even if you can nuance your statements to make them sound good, a lot of times people don't judge what you say, but how you say it. The vast majority of people don't care about the context or what you really meant. They will focus on one sentence taken out of context. So with the clarification, his statement makes perfect sense. But if you just say that with no context or knowing it can be taken out of context, it's bad optics. So I would just say that was just kind of not well thought out on his part.
Yeah. And like, I kind of get what he's saying because I've seen this, for example, like I've had friends like when I was in high school, I had an Asian friend who got like a very high SAT score. He got rejected from Harvard. But like we've seen people that are other minorities get into Harvard for much lower SAT scores because they have to meet quotas. There's that kind of aspect. And so I felt really bad for my friend because he's super smart. I think his name was Wyatt. I haven't talked to him in years, of course. But yeah, it was like, dude, like that is just BS. You should have gotten in, even though because you got like close to a 1600. Like this is absurd. So I've seen that kind of stuff happen in my life where like a white or an Asian person doesn't.
I've seen it in the fire service.
Yeah. So I get what Charlie is saying. We should not be hiring based on race. And it does naturally happen that you relax standards for certain races too if you do have quotas to meet, and that is not a good thing. But
yeah,
so good points on both sides. But yeah, let's get back to the response.
This historic event will likely be one of the largest and most consequential in American history. The team at Trump Students and Turning Point Action are honored to help make this happen, sending 80-plus buses full of patriots to D.C. to fight for this president. Check out the date on this one. Yeah, Charlie Kirk deleted this tweet later, but it doesn't change the fact that he propagated the lie that the 2020 election was stolen by some imaginary evil and helped rile people up into an insurrection.
Joining us now is Steve Salier.
I don't get how this is keeping Gen Z men Christian in a sinister way. Yeah. This is just, I don't like Charlie Kirk and he does some dumb stuff sometimes.
Yeah.
What does this have to do with Christianity?
This is even less relevant than I thought it would be. All he is saying here is that some people on the right use religion to propagate ideas I don't like. That is all this video is saying.
Pretty much. I mean, and again, my main point is if the far right is keeping Gen Z men Christian, Drew, you should be thanking them for some of the research I've cited. See my debate with Lawrence Krauss for even more.
Do we need to make a video called The Sinister Way the Left is keeping you secularized and depressed?
See?
What you'll find out is that it's pointless to point out double standards with the left because it's like they'll be sending us to the gulags and we'll be like, imagine if the shoe was on the other foot. Seriously.
Who I find to be incredible.
What's that?
Nothing. I'm just confused. That's all. This is why
really interesting and one of the most talented noticers in the country. Steve, welcome to the program. We like to say on the show that people committed the crime of noticing. You obviously started to, you popularized that, meaning using their brains and using pattern recognition. You might be one of the most talented noticers on the planet. What are some of the things that you noticed long before the national media did, and how have you been treated as a result?
For those unaware, the term noticer is a term that anti-Semites use for themselves. A noticer is an anti-Semite who notices supposed coincidences of an imagined international Jewish conspiracy.
I've never heard this term until I saw
Me
Drew's
neither.
video here.
I have.
You
Really?
really?
Yes.
I don't consume political content at all, so
Mhm.
it's not. So for me, it's like me not knowing about this doesn't really mean much.
Okay.
It's almost
Yeah.
more.
I have seen all this. I've seen the triple parentheses. I've seen the noticing word. This has nothing to do with Charlie Kirk, really. He might have recently started flirting with this, but this is just Gen Z far-right meme culture.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but if anything, I think Charlie should not be associating with Steve Saylor, who, again, never heard of him until this video. So
Steve is
Steve
Steve an
Saylor-
actual anti-Semite? Richard?
It seems like what I found is he's a proponent of scientific racism. Like there's differences between the races or something.
I don't know about
much about
Steve.
him.
I just know what the term noticing means, and
Okay.
the three parentheses is what you put around something to show that it is Jewish, with a very, very negative connotation. But you don't want to flag any of the AI diversity algorithms.
I see.
Jewish conspiracy. Steve Saylor is a proponent of the white supremacist pseudoscience of racialism, also called race science, and a propagator
Nonsense.
of the Great Replacement conspiracy theory. Noticing is what he calls his work arguing for that absolute paranoid racist bullshit, of which Charlie Kirk is a big supporter. As this article in The Atlantic says, race science is hardly a new idea. During Jim Crow, the idea was used as justification for sterilizing black people. In Nazi Germany, the veneer of science and biology was used as a pretense for genocide. Kirk doesn't hide these views of his either. He's produced entire episodes of his show with titles like Great Replacement is not a theory, it's a reality. Okay, last clip.
So I didn't watch those. I think this idea is nonsense. For one thing, there was you go back 20 years, there was a bunch of people on the right worried about the influx of Latino men coming into the U.S. and then voting Democrat. And it turns out that a lot of Latino men are now voting Republican. So I've never worried about any of that kind of stuff because I tend to see these things tend to work themselves out. I want to see more Christian men regardless of race, more Christian women regardless of race. I think that would be better for any society regardless of politics. And so, again, I'll go off someone like John Compton, Jonathan Roch for this kind of stuff. So I don't. If we're worried about white replacement, I think you got your priorities straight. It's about spreading the gospel, not whiteism.
Yes.
Clip, because I'm sure you're getting the picture.
So you love God. So you must love his law. How do you love somebody?
Here we go, folks.
You love them by telling them the truth, not by confirming or affirming their sin. And it says, by the way, Miss Rachel, you might want to crack open that Bible of yours. In a lesser referenced part of the same part of Scripture is in Leviticus 18, is that thou shalt lay with another man shall be stoned to death. Just saying. So, Miss Rachel, you quote Leviticus 19, love your neighbor as yourself. The chapter before affirms God's perfect law when it comes to sexual matters.
If you weren't yet convinced that Kirk believes in and advocates for violence against minorities, then this should change that. His idea of loving your neighbor as yourself, in this case, is literally killing them.
I think that is very uncharitable.
Yeah. Also, again, he's just talking about Charlie Kirk. It's like I can find a lot of left-wing figures who have said violent things, who have said there needs to be unrest in the streets because we're not getting what we want politically. What you do, Mike, is you show data that shows Christians are less likely to have antisocial behavior. He's just saying, look at this guy. Look at this guy.
Your camera got blurry. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Why.
I know that happens. My camera sucks.
I'm pretty sure if
lame.
you were to ask Charlie Kirk, are you advocating for violence against gay people? He would say no, absolutely not. And I don't even know the guy.
Yeah, that's incredibly uncharitable. He's talking about something that Rachel said, and he's saying, oh, but what about this other passage over here? If you're quoting like Leviticus, why don't quote that part?
So
I think
just
he's
as
doing,
an
it's a rhetorical move.
Just as an experiment, dress up as gay as possible, wear a bunch of gay symbols and dress up like you're gay, and go to the most conservative church you can find. You might get some funny looks. Then wear a MAGA hat and a bunch of conservative paraphernalia and walk through like the streets of Hollywood, California. You will get physically assaulted. So,
oh yeah,
I think you're right. Unfortunately, I hope you're wrong, but I think you're right. So,
in preaching all of this, Kirk does offer a structure on which his audience may build meaning. He says, there's a great evil in this world. It's powerful. It's all around us. It's lurking in the people you don't understand and is coming to destroy everything you hold dear. It must be overcome, so join me in a crusade against it. This is a very lopsided Christian message. Like the Christian...
It's not a Christian message, though. It's like... This is not falling on the ears of your regular churchgoer.
Yeah,
this is falling on political
like
right people.
This is like the textbook definition of a non sequitur. He's like, young men have a meaning crisis, and Charlie Kirk says things I don't like. Therefore, the things he says must be fulfilling their meaning crisis.
Yeah. Yeah, this is not a Christian message. And again, as we talked about earlier, this is not the stuff that's being preached in the churches. We don't get up and the pastor goes, and by the way, Charlie Kirk said this week that we have to meet here and register these voters here and be sure to harass the gays over there. Kind of like this isn't happening. Like,
now, I have seen progressive churches actually defend, communist insurrectionists as part of their BLM training program. I was in a progressive church that did that. I've seen progressive churches advocate for violence, not advocate for violence, but advocate against criticisms of violence during BLM. So Christians are not the ones supporting political extremism, but the ones that are most likely to are left-wing churches.
Yeah. And so again, if we're going to attack the right churches for getting the right-wing churches for getting political, just take a look at the left-wing churches. I mean, you'll be shocked at how political they can get.
Christianity in which I was raised, Kirk's Christianity includes a narrative of supreme evil. But unlike my former Christianity, it is entirely centered around the concept of evil. And any talk of goodness or love is twisted into promoting violence and hatred, feeding only his audience's darkest impulses.
Again, look at the left-wing churches. What you said could have literally described so many left-wing progressive churches. I mean,
Richard, are you and your friends really feeling violent? Do you guys how often do you guys go on the streets and just find gay people to like punch in the face?
I don't want to answer that question because it will be taken out of context. But let me tell you, like if I answer that, I'd like to answer that question in a sarcastic way, but then it's going to be spread all over social media.
Yes.
What my friends do is like me and my bros, we all have such a big meaning crisis. We were just walking around, walking around the streets, being addicted to like drugs and all because we had no meaning. And then Charlie Kirk, the Messiah, showed up and he told us that there was a cosmic evil that subsists in Hillary Clinton. And we were like, we have a purpose now. And then we all went to Hillary Clinton's house and then used the Bible to shout hate speech at her specifically. And now we have meaning in our lives. We're busted.
Dang. Did you ever give that testimony in your church?
Yeah, I gave my testimony in my right-wing church. So right after we finished our liturgical prayers to Trump, and we prayed for the intercession of Saint Reagan. Right after we finished that, I gave up and I gave a sermon only on Leviticus 18:22. And I said that not only is it an abomination to be gay, but it's an abomination to be a Democrat as well. And the whole, then we sang, our hymn was Trump's song, like I'm proud to be an American. And then we recited the Noticers Creed. And then, okay, here's something I actually did do. So my old church was kind of progressive. I didn't leave because it was progressive. I left because I moved. There was this benediction at the end, which was kind of secular and cheesy. It was like, be swift to love, make haste to be kind. And it wasn't anything about God. So I changed the words to be swift to lift, make haste to be based. That's something I did. But yeah, we recited that benediction at the end of my church service, and then we all went out and committed hate speech.
You know, that's
going to be clipped for sure.
Yeah, I'm excited to see the clips of that. Related to this tangentially, isn't this video supposed to be about Gen Zers and how Charlie Kirk is making them violent and all this other stuff? But notice that all the examples that he's bringing up of cases where people are being violent or doing things he doesn't like are not Gen Zers.
Yeah.
It's boomers.
It's like,
yeah,
yes,
Gen Xers.
This extremism is not something I support, but it's not violent. The left is violent. There have been very, very few actual violent attacks inspired by right-wing racism. There is right-wing racism online, which might evolve into that, and that's a problem. But most of the actual political violence committed in America is from the left.
Mm-hmm.
The political assassination attempt that was committed was from the left.
Yep, that's a good point. I mean, we all saw it. It's gonna go down as one of the most famous video clips in history of this country. But yeah, I think you're definitely right. All right, let's finish this video out and get to some super chats.
One of the reasons I think Christianity can be good for some people is that I've seen forms of it motivate love for the oppressed, charity to the needy, scorn of power and wealth, and the cultivation of a sense of purpose and meaning through making the world a better place for all people.
Most forms.
Kirk's shadow Christianity is the exact opposite.
And it doesn't
exist. Not only is this...
And it doesn't exist. It's just political right wing and flirting with some Christian aspects.
Clearly dangerous to the meek who are supposed to inherit the earth. But I'd argue it's also dangerous for its believers. Hatred and rage are poison to those who cultivate them, especially in the long term. They damage one's character, which leads to the destruction of one's relationships. This, in turn, leads one to a life of loneliness and despair. Dark enchantment may provide young men a high in the short term, but in the long term, I believe it will take from them much more than it ever offered. Shadow Christianity, then...
Anything you said, you could just been said about the left-wing churches.
I was just going to say, like, this is so ironic because, like, in my experience, some of the most hateful, intolerant people I've ever met are going to be people on the left.
That's literally why I converted to Christianity, sort of, because when I grew up around secular leftists and I was told that right-wing rural Christians were all a bunch of hateful bigots. Then I went to the Midwest and met other Christians my age, and I was like, these people are a lot more welcoming and accepting of people that are different than them than any of the leftists I grew up around.
Yeah, and I mean, here, I'll put up my slides again.
Guys, you know how Protestants have 40 billion denominations? Well, I think I'm inspired to start a new denomination based on shadow Christianity or whatever. I'm starting a new denomination. I'm starting St. Charlie Kirk's Shadow Christian denomination, where we do all the things that I just said we do.
I mean, it's interesting because, again, anything you said could be applied to the secular left-wing churches. But I mean, like, in terms of just research, Christianity is associated with better pro-social behavior, lower depression, lower suicide rates. I mean, like, if Charlie Kirk is getting more young men to stay Christian and they're going to church more, that's not going to happen, Drew. They're actually going to get far better. And suicide's going to go down. Depression is going to go down. Mental health is going to get better. This is what all the research shows. This was a meta-analysis that looked at 850 studies, and it found this. So, yeah, I don't know what you're talking about. This just, I see that far more active on the left with what they do when it's promoting violence, promoting left-wing ideology as a church sermon, and then it leads to that kind of stuff. This is why we see these associations in the research. So, all right, I'm done with the video. Let's get to super chats here.
Yep.
As someone far to the right of that 90s Democrat Trump, I really appreciate this channel. It's the devotion. They're not getting political. You are very welcome, sir. I went to a Catholic school for 9 years and only had 2 male teachers, one being for gym. Even at my public high school, this was often the case.
Yeah. There is a lot of female influence from a young age, especially in like fatherless communities. So men do crave some masculine leadership. They're not getting it from Charlie Kirk, okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're getting it from this channel, sir.
Yeah.
You just remember that. X actually went 48-48 equal feels disadvantaged. I'm not sure what that refers to.
I don't know. Yeah.
X, 48-48. Maybe in terms of the political aspect of it. Cool. How do you say Richard backwards? Drucker.
Yeah.
Richard, have you studied full preterism?
Yeah, it kind of defeats the whole hope of Christianity, which is about the future. So, yeah.
I just cite X1 and they get upset. But yeah. Don't worry, they got charts to show you. They always have the let me show you my charts. I got charts.
That's the same with the dispensationalists. How many hours a day do I play Minecraft?
He's currently playing.
Yeah,
yes.
He's currently doing it. 11 billion.
Yeah. Really, it depends on how much the server's popping, but yeah.
I kind of wish Christians would stop using the word woke. It's primarily just serves to stir up anger on both sides of the issue, and no one can even agree on what it means. Listen, I was riding my bike around Tucson the other day, and I went through a liberal protest, mostly older, like senior citizen women, but I saw more than one poster board saying fully woke or proud woke. So I've seen them use it. So I just saw it the other day, Saturday, at this protest that I just happened to be riding my bike through.
Yep.
Seen Alex call out Huff on Mark ending, Billy Carson type mistake. Alex O'Connor exposes the big. I've seen that, yeah, and he took down the original. I don't know much about that, to be honest.
I didn't look into this. I heard about it, but I don't care enough.
Yeah.
Unless people need us to cover it, and I will.
Once again, everyone overestimates how much conservative Christians care about conservative politics.
See, he doesn't see. This is how out of touch Redeem Zoomer is with it. He thinks we're talking about something political here. There's nothing political. It's something completely different.
Yeah, pretty much.
What about the libertarian stance on gay marriage? If they aren't part of the church, it doesn't matter. Yeah, the libertarian stance is, we can allow it in the culture, but we don't allow it in the church.
I'm personally not a libertarian, so I don't get why that matters.
No one's perfect. Don't get upset. Iron-spiring philosophy. Genetically modified Christian who was so Christian that he is not Christian.
Yeah. Man, I'm sorry, Drew, but some of the some lines like that, man, that's pretty cringe. pretty like rude and cringe. Yeah. I'm so Christian. That's why I left. Better than come on. I'm so atheist because I'm so critical thinker that I became a Christian. Yeah, the most atheist thing to do is become a Christian. If you really care about critical thinking, that's why I became Christian.
Well, I'm an atheist to all the gods of the culture, just like the Christians were called atheists in the Roman Empire. So that means I became a Christian.
There you go. I like Charlie, but he's cringe on a lot of stuff. A true Christian would submit to everything secularism, progressivism, and individualism says is true. Yes, that's what the atheists tell us every day. That's what we're supposed to do. If we really want to be a Christian, we'll.
Hey, don't you know that Jesus said to be good, and I just presuppose that good means liberal?
Yeah, that's how it works. Zoomer, are you in Dima or Trench? What the heck?
Dima or Trench? It's 21 Pilots lore. Well, once again, I'm not in Dima because I'm the only 21 Pilots fan who does not have depression. I just think their music sounds good, and it's one of the few modern music things that are actually somewhat intelligent.
You should respond to that Jesus was Herod's son. Oh, I did see that.
Don't
I
you
did
think
see
some things are not even worth responding
Stop.
to?
No way. No, stop. My blood hurts.
It was silly. It was
yeah.
No, it was Herod's grandson, like Herod's oldest son. Herod killed, but he had a son who's Jesus before like it happened. So
Yeah, like Inspiring Philosophy makes videos debunking the strangest Reddit myths. Soon there's going to be a video saying Festivus is not pagan.
yeah, someone made a meme one time, like future Inspiring Philosophy video, like Venezuelan like commerce Labor Day is not pagan or something like that. It's coming. Do negative truth claims require proof and evidence? Fan, what do you say?
Yes. If you're going to say something is not true, that means that you think there's a logical contradiction in that thing, or that there's evidence against that thing.
Mm-hmm. Powerful. It is I, Horus.
I just saw that the other day.
Thank you for coming, Horace. We do really, really appreciate you being here. It means a lot to us, especially because I love that channel. Anyway, I saw Matt get angry over AP's conversion on X. Yes, he did. Oh my! So Matt Dillahunty got mad.
I did see that.
Yeah. Let me see if I can. I got it here. Hold on.
I'm gonna have to message him about that because I'm really confused.
I was trolling for sure. Like I was just having fun. It was Resurrection Day. I was happy. But yeah. Here, like he's like, so Matt basically like AP said life is better this way. Prove it. Prove that anyone's claim are true. Until then, your faith-based performance, like Ion, is just trading one convenient master for another. And then Ridvan was like, I'm Christian now, Matt. My life is better. Why does that bother you? And then Matt just said the thing. He said the thing, Than. You were never a real skeptic because you pretended to be a skeptic and adopted a faith-based
Oh my gosh.
position.
I've heard that so many times.
How many times have I heard atheists get annoyed when a Christian says you were never a real Christian to an ex-Christian?
Did one of the atheists literally tell someone they were never a real atheist?
That's exactly what I said, Richard. That's exactly what I said. Look,
they always clown on the once saved, always saved Christians, which I mean I'm not even one of those, but they literally did the thing. They did the thing.
But then he got mad at me. He's like, you effing liar. No problem with not being an atheist and never said otherwise. It was obvious about giving up skepticism. So I said, okay, Matt, he was never a real skeptic. Got it. Doesn't change my point. Like, dude, calm down, sir. Like I was definitely trolling just for the fun of it. But seriously, he did the you were never a real Christian line, but he was never a real skeptic. And I'm glad you saw the exact same thing I saw, Richard. Like, it's clearly that's what he's doing.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was interesting. Like, why do you care? Like, this doesn't bother you. So
there was a lot of spicy atheists on Easter this year, like more than normal.
They're feeling it. They're feeling their decline. The relevance is fading, man. I'm telling you, new atheism is dead. The relevance is dead.
Good.
Gen Z killed it. Love it. Apostate
Charlie Kirk killed it.
Oh, we did. Give us the power in the
That's
dark.
True. I had a big meaning crisis, but then Charlie Kirk had me swap out my atheism with hating Hillary Clinton.
You see? Powerful. He admits it. He admits Charlie Kirk is his patron saint.
Yes.
Muff, said Petrus Romanus, feeding the sheep during tribulations was Antipope Francis feeding homeless people in the Vatican in the end times prophecy. LOL. End times apostasy. Powerful. Why don't you guys support Christian Catholic monarchy and separation of church and state to IP? And Zoomers also with
Wagnerites, followers of the Catholic YouTuber Christian Wagner, good friend of mine, very extremist though. Do you want to go first? Why don't you support a Catholic monarchy?
Because so much research shows we see far better results coming out of democratic states. Democracy is very good for the economy. It's very good
but
for
my base trad crusader monarchy, though.
good point. I didn't think of it like that.
Now, I will say a lot of Gen Z men are monarchist, and I was LARPing as that for a while until I came to my senses. My response for why I'm not a base trad Sigma monarchist is what Mike said. The evidence doesn't show it actually helps. And because Presbyterians invented American democracy, and even if you think America's controlled by Jewish Freemasons, America has been the most successful country that has contributed more to human flourishing than any other country ever, and it has done so by spreading Christian values. So,
yeah. There's been research showing democratic states are far better for people, and it comes out of Christianity. Like research, like Tom Holland has brought this up, that separation of church and state. Toby E. Huff pointed this out, that democracy, this kind of stuff comes out of Christianity. So the Catholic monarchists won't get their way because they'll create a Christian society and then we'll just revert to democratic.
Yeah, these trads are really missing out on an opportunity to show how Christianity had a positive influence, because Christianity led to democratic societies. It was John Calvin's ideas that led to the idea that we're all equal before God because we all deserve to go to hell. And that's what led to democracy. So you should listen to Bruce Score. He talks about this. He's a great historian.
Yeah, I will say Calvin was influenced by a lot of earlier thought that we see. Toby E. Huff talks about it. So it's just not like he just started.
Yeah, I know you're not a Calvinist, but Calvin is Pope of the universe. So
I didn't think of it like that. Thanks for clarifying. To respond, I may need thy help to understand the theodicy and also stronger in the. I shall email ye about it. I'm what?
Your internet's pooping out on you, but it's getting better.
Sorry. To respond, I mean whatever. He's gonna email you anyway. So
yeah.
From my mainly evangelical lenses, one of the largest things missing in all church denominations is the lack of actual fellowship between believers. People often attend church weekly and remain alone. Absolutely great point. Totally agree.
True.
Very true. Is there any truth for Christians to date Judeo from Judeo-Christian, since Christian channels say it's Judaizing Christianity? Read Romans 11. We can't separate ourselves from the tree, guys. We need to respect it. Paul is very clear. Okay.
I am going to go and insert my covenant theology and say that we do need to distinguish between Judaism of the Old Testament and Judaism today. But yeah,
I agree. I'm just saying, like, there's still a Judeo aspect in Christianity
that
needs to be acknowledged.
Yeah.
Clearly the milk has not. What is JMO Preacher of the Milk gave $5.56 and says clearly the milk has not been drunk by Thanusi. And as the message from Laura Lodge, inspiring Philofusi, the milk is the what is going on in Gen Z?
The only thing I'm understanding here is maybe 5.56 for like the type of ammunition a rifle might take, but that's about it.
You see, clearly Than's an American. He just immediately goes to ammunition and guns. So proud of you, sir. Proud of you. For Than's gain, Thanatics, throw it up.
Thank you. Beef and eggs are so expensive right now.
Gay Jewish atheist is a hell of a combination. Jonathan Roch, that's what he identifies himself as. He's a gay Jewish atheist of the Brookings Institute, but really nice guy. Fan of Tim Keller. So that should tell you something. Very based, yes. He met him, and the book Cross Purposes is dedicated to a friend of his and Tim Keller. So that should tell you something about how good the book is. Debate Satan. Yes, bring it, Satan. I will destroy you. I will use my Dhamma to destroy you, Satan. Sorry for Jamo. When you should be. When will you go back on Lore Lodge? Oh, we were talking today. I'm going to try to go back on soon. People keep wanting me to go on there and have a conversation with Wendigoon, so I'd do that in a heartbeat. You guys ever heard of a Christian superhero show from the 90s called Bible Man and Than? You seem You seen a show called Avatar: The Last Airbender? Have you seen that Last Air? No one's seen that show.
I've heard of Bible Man, and I have watched Avatar. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Who hasn't watched Avatar? Most misunderstood thing about Jesus. He wasn't a liberal or a conservative. He didn't care about your politics. He came to show he's
king of the universe. So
he came to show he's king, baby.
Yep.
I get that full preterist can be. You're still here though, so you're kind of. They feel like their voice is not being heard, and I've definitely been annoying about it. Apologies. I mean, yeah, I get it, but I mean, like, they don't solve that by just constantly bothering me. Like they're gonna make it worse.
True.
Dark Enchantment. So Alex Jones, also Than. Do you still use the same email? I don't know. Do you?
I do look at Than at Exploring Reality, but I'm primarily going to be using Than at Inspiring Philosophy moving forward. Still, Ryan, I did see your email. I just haven't gotten to it yet.
Yeah, he gets thousands of emails. He's not going to get to every email. Just remember that, people. It's just the nature of the beast. So, but as Alex Jones, Dark Enchantment, sir, it's coming. It's coming for America. The Illuminati's in on this, sir.
The Dark Enchantment is the chemicals they're putting in the water.
I don't want to put chemicals in the water that turn the freaking frogs gay.
I don't want the frogs gay. Have you heard the remix version of that?
I love all the memes of like some like a knight with a shield and Alex Jones protecting the gay frogs meme. I love those.
Oh man.
Mm-hmm. While Jesus was praying, Judas Iscariot showed up shouting, "I will humiliate you!" And Jesus suplexed Judas, breaking his neck and evading prosecution. John the Presbyter, 666, uncorrupted in jail. Got to get a hold of that in jail. It sounds like amazing to read. Ever watched Atheism is a Religion? No, I've not. No. I've heard Redeemed Zoomer thoughts on the Churches of Christ, but what are y'all thoughts in it? Been a member of years, non-instrumental. I don't know. What are your thoughts, Redeemed Zoomer? I've not heard them.
You haven't heard of Church of Christ?
I've heard of it. I've not heard your thoughts on it.
Oh, I'm against it because I'm against all non-institutional Christianity, but especially restorationist Christianity that posits that there was basically a falling away for many centuries, and this group is the one to restart it. Church of Christ is not as bad as Mormons and Jehovah's Witnesses, but arose out of the same movement as Mormons and Jehovah's Witnesses.
I don't like that they do grape juice in a communal cup. That bothers me.
That's unsanitary.
That's very unsanitary. You can do wine in a communal cup.
Or grape juice in individual cups.
Right. That's why the individual cups came out, because they started switching to grape juice in the low churches, and then it was spreading disease because it's not wine anymore. And yeah, but my thoughts on Church of Christ is I would agree that they're not a restoration movement. I don't think there was this great falling away, this great apostasy as Mormons use. I don't understand why they don't use instruments. I don't agree with that either. I don't think there's a good biblical basis for it, but I still think they're Christian. And there's a couple Church of Christ in Tucson I pass occasionally. It seem like good people. So, but no, never have attended one.
Yeah, I'm not saying they're bad people. I'm just saying collectively, I think Christianity needs to be institutional.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Any evidence that Christians baptized infants before 3rd century AD? I can only find examples during 3rd century. I don't know off the top of my hand, but I mean, if
Bible. They baptized households in the Bible.
Yeah.
There you go. The milkman. There you go. It's in the Bible. Do Molinists believe you can lose your salvation? Than, do they? I don't.
Calvinists believe you can lose your salvation. The 5 points of Calvinism are hogwash. Calvin taught evanescent grace, where you can have the grace to believe for a time and then fall away.
Okay. Does anybody ever made a meme of evanescent grace with like an album cover of Evanescence?
I don't think so.
That has to be done.
I think it depends on the Molinist. I don't think it's.
Yeah,
I don't think it's necessarily tied to Molinism. I think you can have either. GMS really should take the meaning crisis seriously. Suicidal nihilism was the turning point for my conversion. P.S. I like Grumpy IP. Well, good. Someone has to. But yeah, I think he's right. I think you're absolutely right. I mean, he's worried about Charlie Kirk making young men suicidal and depressed. Sir, look at your side. Look at the depression rates on your side. It's pretty bleak.
Yeah.
There's a higher law than the Constitution. William Seward is in an anti-slavery speech. Powerful. Yeah. Video coming out in June on how Christianity ended slavery. A lot of good research I found. Dark Matter's critique of Christianity is pretty polished in a pretty polished way. I haven't seen a solid response to his videos. Would love to hear your take. Yeah, Than is basically telling you the response. Some things are just like, ugh. He put this, he did this, he scripted this, put it out, and was like, yeah, this is good. Like,
I really hope this is just like a meme of a
yeah. My LCMS church barely talks about politics. I did try to go to an Elka church, and it was very political every time I went. Yeah, for people who don't know, LCMS is the conservative Lutherans, along with like Wells, and Elka is liberal. It used to be pretty conservative, but now they've just been taken over by the liberals.
And we have to take them. And we have to take them back.
Absolutely. Sure. Gabe says, hi, RZ. You have allowed the devil to twist your mind until now. Until now, you've become the very thing you swore to destroy. I will do what I must. Man, I want a screenshot.
I love that PSP,
I want a bigger image of this somehow. I don't know.
Email us the picture. Email us the picture, Master
Email
Jones,
us
please.
this one, and I want the one of Darth Than, and I want to make memes out of it now. I need both of these.
We need those. Guys, chat. Hey, chat. Do your magic.
Chat!
Somebody. Chat.
We need those pictures emailed. Yes. This is incredible.
We need... Wait.
Hey all, have you've really helped strengthen my knowledge of Christianity, which helped me become better with my actions. Just curious, what is a good way to get into reading? I have books, but I haven't read. We'll really appreciate to hear that, Edge. I always tell people this: read 10 pages of a book a day. In a year, that'll be 3,650 pages. You'll read a ton of books. Just dedicate 15 to 20 minutes a day reading 10 pages of those books. Read with a highlighter. Highlight things you want to remember for later. That'll help. That's what I always tell people. Technically,
I do. Mike.
That was seriously?
Yeah. Somebody sent them to me.
All right, put them up. Screen.
Yeah, give me a sec.
All right. I'll read this next one. Technically, I do support Trump with reservations. No idolatry allowed, but stealing reform Zoomers' sarcastic statements.
Everyone calls me reformed Zoomer. It's the Mandela effect.
Yeah. Yo, Than, it's Andrew from church. Can you ask Redeem Zoomer if I can join his Minecraft server? Love you, Zoomer, by the way. Hey, Zoomer,
hello,
why haven't
Andrew.
you let Andrew from Than's church join your Minecraft server? Obviously, you should have known who he was.
Yeah, I know. I specifically had a bone to pick with Andrew Lie because apparently he lies a lot. It's in his name. So I specifically decreed that he should not be in the Minecraft server.
All right, there. Hold on. Now you can present. Add your screen. Hold on.
There you go. There's.
Yeah.
There it is.
Hold
on. I can get.
I'll send you these PNGs too.
Why
do
you look like a Star Wars nerd? Like you look like that looks like some guy at a Comic-Con convention right there.
It's kind of creepy how close the AI got me here. I'm not gonna lie.
All right,
here's you, Mike. Wait, there's an issue with your file. Let me try again.
Oh God, all the build up. All right, let's go to the.
There's an issue still. Oh no. Okay, hold on. We'll do it differently.
All right, find it. Get it for me, Than. Anyway, I'm move on to the next one.
Here.
IP, thanks, GB. You're welcome, sir. Did Bryson Gray respond? No, he didn't. The coward. No, he just. We tried to set it up. I got busy with fasting for Holy Week, and so I focused on that. But no, he did not.
Bryson Gray.
So he was arguing Easter's pagan, and so I called him out and said I'll debate him, and he said no. Or he didn't say no. He just never really got back to me in modern day debate. So pretty much, well, I'll bother him for Christmas. We'll get him for around Christmas for sure. DMS is clip farming. Oh, here we go. It's a little pixelated, but I love it.
I'll send you the PNGs.
Yeah, I love this image though. Man, look at that. This looks like you in an alternate universe attending a Star Wars convention. Like seriously, like hey, I got my Darth Vader suit. I spent $2,000 on it, and boy, did it really come out nice. I sewed some of the parts together. Do you like what it is? And
the thing is, I would never actually do that for Star Wars. If he would have done like Dragon Ball Z, yeah, probably.
man, that is. I'm gonna just leave that up. It's glorious. Anyway, love your work. Thank you, Jack. IP thoughts on optimistic nihilism. Some atheists adopt it. I think there's some cognitive dissonance going in with that. I don't think it works.
Here's my issue. You can grant all the things that an optimistic nihilist will say, and I'm just gonna say, hey, but guess what? I can do something even better, because I can take the subjective meaning-making capacities that optimistic nihilism has, on top of the objective meaning-making that comes from something like Christianity. I think actually Christianity offers both. So why can't I just have my cake and eat it too?
Yeah.
What do you think about hominids and early sapiens and their suffering and violence, and what the fall actually did? What are your thoughts on biologos? Oh, there's a lot there.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, again, God will judge them justly. If he gave them a law, we're just not privy to it. What I think there was a literal fall in a literal garden. And I think I take the Greek Orthodox view that they passed on a fallen nature. I don't take the Augustinian view. Yeah. Also, please pray for my mom. She's getting surgery tomorrow. Will do, on shore. Richard said BRB, by the way. IP, thanks so much for your video covering the BS from the two Babylons. Hislop was a lunatic. There are so many people repeating his demonic lies. Yeah, I'm happy to do it. I hate having to do it, but yeah. Keeps coming up. Any thoughts on Dr. Michael Heiser's view on the Eucharist and baptism? I don't know those off the top of my head.
I don't either. And I'm a huge Heiser fan.
Yeah. What's the evidence that form of God in Philippians 2 means nature rather than outward appearance?
Man, I don't know if I want to get into we don't have the time right now. I can get into why morphe is nature rather than outward appearance here, but the short answer is if you just kind of look at the semantic range of the word and the instances that morphe is used in, the language in the Greek falls more in line with morphe being nature rather than outward appearance.
What are the best of circular reasoners? Naturalist, atheists arguing against miracles of Quranic Muslims, saying the Bible wrong because contradicts the Quran. So Mojab's defamation defense lawyer says, who are the best of circular reasoners? Naturalist, atheists who are arguing miracles of Quranic Muslims, saying the Bible's wrong because it contradicts the Quran. It's always gonna be the Muslims. Sorry, they're just. I've never been more amazed at how bad their arguments are of any group. Why do libs not criticize Islam? Because they're scared, for sure. Look at Alex O'Connor. He basically admitted it so much when he dropped out of that debate back in February. But also, they tend to look at Muslims as a oppressed group, and therefore they're going to side more likely with them because they think all oppressed groups are just going to side with the liberals. Master Jones says, "Fan check Discord." Is that where you got him from?
Yeah,
makes sense. Powerful. Does Calvinists believe one doesn't have free will with regards to one's? Well, we'll have to wait for Redeem Zoomer to get back because he'll be able to answer this better. I think this is more for him. When Richard gets back, he can do that. Can you please ask if he's read Doc? I don't know.
Don't say it.
Okay, I won't.
I saw it. I saw it like the split second before you said it, and then I'm like, oh wait.
I don't know what that is.
If there was a person with that name that responded to my video on the problem of evil, I need to know which video, and I need to know. I need the link because I haven't heard of this mysterious person.
I think it's someone's trolling because they said the same thing to me the other night, and I was like, I looked it up, I'm like, this isn't real. This isn't real. So
probably not. They're just trying to get a clip.
Okay, Matt just texted me. It's definitely someone trolling.
Matt just texted me too. Oh wait, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I
We
saved
see
your
what you're
life,
doing
Mike.
there. Man, these people are weird. I'm so sick of trying to get rich to escape the matrix. I'm just going to become a Christian apologist. I think maybe I will ball out. Okay.
Yeah, that's definitely the way, man, to get rich.
Thank you, Shira. Yeah, listen, I'm exhausted. I just am reading them, and then people try to slip stuff in because they're trolls. They did, and I didn't do it. So there. Haha.
What's the
I
N
didn't
word?
do it.
Nice?
Yeah, isn't that the... No, it's nagger. Yeah. What? Don't nag me.
All right, I'm back. I had to go venerate icons of Charlie Kirk.
You have 2 super chats, by the way. Do Calvinists, let's correct your grammar, believe one doesn't have free will with regards to one's decisions to believe and follow Christ?
We teach that we do have free will in everything. Read the Westminster Confession. The discriminating factor between who will believe, who will be saved, and who will not, in the end, is God, but it does not take away the liberty or contingency of secondary causes. Read Westminster. Don't read the supposed 5 points of Calvinism.
Say causes.
Cause.
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 Do you know about the caught merger in linguistics?
No.
I speak a more ancient form of English than you do. So would you say like I caught a cold versus I sleep on a cot? Do those words sound the same? Caught and cot?
No.
Okay, good. You're not that bad. Some Midwesterners are very bad. They say like, "Oh, I caught a cold."
I am.
I caught a cold. I'm gonna have some coffee.
I'm not from the Midwest. I'm from Pittsburghians. Listen
Okay,
here now. We go down to the
somewhat civilized.
We go downtown to see the Steelers play. Have a jumbo sandwich. Get your wallet. Get your gum band on that. Okay. Get it. Then we go to Giant Eagle. Get some chipped ham. Okay. That's how we talk in Pittsburgh, eh? Calvinists believe in preservation, preservance of the saints. So no, they don't believe you can fall away from your faith if you're truly saved, says Joshua.
No, you don't understand Calvinism. Yeah. Perseverance of the saints is not even a phrase that is used in any Calvinist confession. There's some sense in which we believe in that, the same sense in which Augustine did. We believe the elect will persevere in the faith, but you can have faith for a time and not be elect and fall away.
Tyrone's back. He says, Stans, what's wrong with that name? We know what's wrong with that name, sir. There's nothing wrong with it. He has a master's in philosophy, Dr. Nick. Also, Stan, help me get buff for the huzz. For the huzz or whatever. Something like that.
If you don't want to pay me to coach you to get buff, here's the secret. Eat lots of protein, get at least 1 gram per pound of body weight, hit every single muscle group at least 2 times a week, aim for 1 to 3 reps left in reserve whenever you are lifting, and eat at a calorie surplus of about 200 calories per day, unless you're over like 25% body fat, then go into a calorie deficit. Walk 10,000 steps a day.
All right. You heard it here, folks. Have Dr. Jordan Cooper on. I'd love to. I think Jordan Cooper is super
intelligent. Jordan Cooper is one of my favorite YouTubers.
Yeah. He came to Tucson, and I went to hear him speak. And then the church I went to had me speak there. So, yeah, it was a good time. He came to speak. So, yeah, he's an awesome guy. I've been wanting to. He's hard to get in touch with sometimes. Was John Calvin a Calvinist? Super serious question.
I mean, he hated that term. Like, he called himself a Catholic, a Reformed Catholic. But most denomination names started out as insults. The Calvinists and Lutherans both called themselves evangelical or Reformed Catholics, and the Calvinists called the Lutherans, the Lutherans called the Calvinists, and the names just ended up sticking.
Yeah, pretty much. Let's go Pens. Yeah, let's go Pens for sure. Pittsburgh home team. Fat IP needs to come back. Yeah, he does. Wait, not in reality. I'm trying to lose weight. I'm doing some intermittent fasting. So,
Mike, you have a guy that works for you that has a wealth of knowledge.
All right, I'll talk to Matt. Not trying to sound like a broken record, guys, but I think that saying households were baptized equals infants is like me assuming that non-believing slaves were baptized as well. Jesus and Nicodemus conversation.
Well, the implication is that the whole household is baptized unless one of them is explicitly an unbeliever, indicating that baptism is more of a corporate familial reality than an individualistic reality. Okay. So it's like when a household is baptized, if like the wife or something doesn't believe, then she's probably not going to be baptized. But if the kids are just sort of willing to go along with the father's decision, then they will get baptized. That, like, if you want to be based in trad, having families be the fundamental unit of society rather than individuals is a very based in trad position.
I agree. Andrew's back. What are your guys' thoughts on orthodoxy? I'm trying to do some digging on apostolic churches, and I watch a lot of Orthodox. Kyle, Andrew, you go to Than's church. Why don't you talk to him? Like, you just go talk to him this Sunday. Bam, there you go. Get a nice long answer there. I think orthodoxy is
Andrew's talked to me before, and I don't give answers that easily.
I
always make people think.
I'm sorry, Andrew. I'm sorry you got to deal with this guy.
Since IP's not going to tell you what his thoughts on different denominations are, I would say that really traditional Protestant churches are also apostolic. They have apostolic succession through presbyters. And obviously I very much disagree with orthodoxy. I think if you want traditional Christianity, there's many other options. I think Orthodox Kyle's a nice guy. I've done a lot of videos with him, but the way he presents history is very simplistic, insanely biased, and it blows over a lot of data. It's like you can't just simplify all of church history into one meme chart that shows your church as a straight line and all other churches breaking away from it. So I think if you convert to orthodoxy, it shouldn't be because you saw some memes from Kyle.
I will keep that all private, what I think. Hi. Yo, Richard Bowtie, where you at? Ceiling fan lonely?
So I kind of overdressed last time, so no bow tie today.
Yinzer in Tucson, Permanis or EGs? I don't like EGs. Permanis all the way. Permanis is awesome. Pittsburgh food is pretty good in my view. To all three, is Europe's Salafism going to affect the U.S.? A poll shows that 75% of Muslims want Sharia in UK. Did IP know they do Dawa table in every university nationwide? Yeah, that's terrifying. I don't think it's going to affect the U.S. because it's a lot harder for them to establish a foothold here for many, many reasons. Like they don't have it, so it's a lot harder for that. And we have a lot more immigrants from the Latin world than the Islamic world, unlike Europe. So that sort of saves us in a lot of ways because we bring a lot of Catholics from the South. So I think that's a problem for them. But yeah, I hope the UK reverses that. Desperately, I hope they reverse it. So hopefully it does happen. But I do know a lot of Muslims in the UK, either they end up deconverting or their children or become deconverts or lapse Muslims. So it's not as bleak as the future looks, I'd say. Is it a sin for ripping off my pot-smoking cousin, paying him $5 an hour to do blue-collar labor? What do you have a pastor you can talk to, sir?
Why do people always go to online? Why do people go to online influencers for their spiritual and moral advice?
I don't know, man. I don't know what to tell this guy. How does Calvinism work? Do we have free will?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Free will is not incompatible with predestination.
Yeah. All right. Just going to put this. Redeem Zoomer is getting exhausted. So all four of us, me, Than, and Redeem Zoomer, and Cosplay Than are going to get off as well.
Cosplay Than.
I love that image, man. That is. All right. So we're going to close this out. Than and I will be back on the channel this Monday to look at that Rhett and Alex interview. So we'll see you guys then. Also, we have a video coming out Friday on the Pentateuch. So check that out. Redeem Zoomer's channel is linked below. Subscribe to him. Thanks for coming on. We love having him on. He's hilarious. So
thank you.
Love having him on. So he'll be back for sure. So all right. Any final thoughts?
Yeah, Richard, just send me some of the prayers that you send over to Saint Kirk. I would love to start praying.
Yes.
Oh,
him.
I need those. I need those too. Yes.
Yeah,
I need
yeah.
to update my church liturgy for sure to add that in. Awesome. So.
Yeah, the prayers that incite all the hatred, because that's what we're all about.
All right, guys. See you Monday, 8 p.m. Eastern. See you then.
See ya.
Catch you later.
You made it to the end of this video, which means this message matters to you. If you want to see more content like this reaching people for Christ, you can help make it happen. Your support makes these videos possible. Click the link below and donate today. And if you want to go even deeper, consider joining our Patreon community. You'll get early access to videos, behind-the-scenes content, and a place to connect with others passionate about this mission.